A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all-old-time radio.
Kroger Tender Ray Beef presents by transcription Hearts in Harmony, and brings you today Kay Kaiser, star of the radio world, who in a moment will tell you about a star of the food world featured at your Kroger store. K is for Kroger, C is for cut, B is for beef. KCB means Kroger cut beef, and Kroger cut beef means more meat for your money. And here's why this star of the food world gives you more meat, less waste. Before the meat is weighed and priced, the Kroger method of cutting beef removes excess bone, excess waste, and stringy ends. You get top U.S. government grades of beef, meat that's tender, juicy, rich red, and marbled with just the right amount of flavory fat. You get a better value in top-grade beef. So visit your neighborhood Kroger store. That's where you'll find Kroger cut beef and many other outstanding stars of the food world. And now to tell you about a famous star of the soap world featured at your Kroger store, here's Kay Kaiser.
Howdy, folks. Hi, y'all. This is Kay Kaiser with news for all you ladies. Doctors prove the palm olive plan brings 2 out of 3 women lovelier complexions in 14 days. Yes, ma'am, 36 doctors tested and proved the palm olive plan. So, yes, get palm olive today.
Get palm olive soap at your Kroger store. It's Kroger for better values on well-known brands, the stars of the food world. And now, Hearts in Harmony. An operation designed to save Barry Carlton's life has been successful, though for a while, Barry failed to respond. But now, hours later, Penny Gibbs' mother comes to Penny's hospital room with the first really good news Penny has had since the automobile accident. Grace says,
Penny, Barry's regained consciousness.
Oh, Mother, has he really?
Yes, I just left Mrs. Carlton. Dr. Weston came in and got her, and she's going to talk to Barry in a little while.
That means he'll be all right now, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly means the operation was a success. There's no doubt about that.
I don't have any doubts about Barry now, either. And this was the important thing, this operation. Once he got by that, he was going to be all right. I've been sure about that all along.
Oh, he still has a long way to go before he's completely out of danger, darling.
I know. Oh, Mother, I prayed he'd come out of the operation all right, and my prayers were answered. Now I'm going to pray that he'll be completely well again. I know those prayers will be answered, too.
Honest prayers usually are, dear.
Mother? Won't they let me see him? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't, dear. I doubt if it'll be right away, though. He's still awfully weak. Penny, you're not very strong yourself.
I'm all right.
Oh, you think you are. But you just keyed up over the good news about Barry. Still have to take it very slowly, darling. Or when Barry is strong enough to have a visit from you, you won't be strong enough to visit him.
I'll see Barry if I have to crawl all the way.
Now, wouldn't you be a pretty sight trying to crawl into Barry's room in bandages and cast?
I guess I'd have a pretty hard time of it. Oh, Mother, I do so want to see him.
Well, when it's right for you to see him, they'll take you to him, Penny.
I guess I'll just have to wait, won't I?
And patiently.
Well, I will wait, but not patiently. You know, Mother, there's a funny thing about all this. I wasn't a bit afraid. I was sure I was dying, but I wasn't a bit afraid.
Well, I'm relieved to know that. Glad to know you weren't afraid.
Maybe no one is who's dying. Maybe God takes care of that.
Maybe he does.
You, don't want to talk about it, do you?
I'd rather not, dear.
I'm sorry. It seems all right to talk about it now. It seems so far away.
It was only a few days ago, darling.
I know. It seems like centuries, though.
Well, someday this will all be so big in your mind it might have happened centuries ago. That's one nice thing about our memories. It blots out the unhappy things in our past.
Exaggerates the happy ones, Oh, Mother, I'll never forget today. This is one of the happiest days of my life. The news about Barry just couldn't have been any better.
Well, I hope there's still better news in a day or two. There may be. Mrs. Carlton talked to Dr. Reynolds, who operated on Barry. Dr. Reynolds says that if Barry continues to gain strength during the next 72 hours, he'll be completely out of danger, well on his way to recovery.
The next 72 hours?
Mm-hmm.
How many prayers an hour will God accept from one person?
As many as that person can say.
Oh, he'll get a record number from me during the next 72 hours. I bet he'll say that Penny Gibbs is the brainiest person he's ever listened to. And I hope he does listen.
I'm sure he'll listen, dear. He'll listen to us all.
You'll pray for Barry, too, Mother, won't you?
You know I will, darling. I have already. All of us have, all along. We've prayed for both of you. And it seems that our prayers about you have already been answered.
Then concentrate them all on Barry, will you?
Well, most of them. But you're still in need of a few until Dr. Weston and Dr. Ryan say you're ready to go home.
I wonder when that'll be.
Not for a long time yet.
Why not?
Penny, you're not to rush things. Haste can undo all the progress you've made. You still have a long way to go.
Oh, nonsense. I'm almost well. They're even taking more of the bandages off my face tonight or tomorrow.
Well, the injuries on your face aren't the serious ones, Penny. You were hurt worse around your shoulders and chest, and that's where the progress has been the slowest and will take the longest. And that's why there's still danger, dear.
Darling, I won't have a relapse if that's what you and the doctors are afraid of. Now that Barry's so much better, I'm just that much better myself. Wonder if Mrs. Carlton's seen him yet.
Well, when I left you, Dr. Weston was telling her she could see him in a few minutes. He just wanted to tell her a few things first.
Maybe she's seeing him now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wonder how he is and how he feels.
Well, I'm sure he's wondering the same thing about you, dear. And I know Mrs. Carlton is going to be happy to tell him that you're well and doing fine and thinking constantly.
You must lie perfectly still, my son, and let me do most of the talking. You're very weak, Barry, but you're going to be all right.
I feel weak, Mother. Am I very ill?
Yes, Barry, very ill. You've just had an operation.
What for?
You were in an accident, Barry. You were badly hurt in an accident.
An accident?
In your automobile.
Automobile? Why? Mother, where's Penny? How's Penny? I remember now. I remember the accident.
Please, my son, you mustn't try to move. You must lie still and talk very little. Penny's all right.
But where is she?
Here, in the hospital.
Won't you come in and see me?
She can't just yet, dear. She was hurt, too.
Badly? She hurt badly?
She's been in bed almost a week.
A week? The accident was last night. We were going to Heatherton to be married.
That was almost a week ago, Barry. You've been unconscious ever since the accident.
Oh. Does Penny know?
She knows you were badly hurt. She knows they operated on you today and that you're better.
Tell her I'll be all right. Tell her I love her. And I'll be all right.
Of course you'll be all right. And she knows you love her.
She doesn't think the accident was my fault, does she?
No, my son, she doesn't.
The little girl who ran across the road. What happened to her? Was she hurt, too?
No, she wasn't scratched.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Oh.
What is it, son?
Nothing, Mother. Only a little pain. I guess there's always a little pain with things like this. Is Penny in much pain?
Not anymore.
That's good. When may I see her?
Soon. As soon as you're strong enough, and she's strong enough. The doctor said I could stay only a minute or two at a time, Barry. I'd better not overstay the allotted time.
You'll be near her often, though, won't you?
Yes, my son. I won't leave the hospital until you're well again. And get well again, dear, because I love you very much.
I love you too, Mother. You know that. And I'll get well again. You know that, too. Because I have you to live for and Penny to live for. A man doesn't need anything more to live for than two of the most wonderful people in the world.
when I told Julie that Dr. Reynolds was a brain man, she said she thought she could buy brains from him the way you buy ice from an iceman.
Oh, the little darling. She cheered you up, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she brought me this book.
Yes, I helped her pick it out. She wanted to bring me a bigger one, but I told her it was the story, not the size that counts.
She would want me to have the biggest and the best. I hope these bandages on my face didn't frighten her.
No, but Johnny said she cried after she left the hospital with him. She said you looked so hurt. Penny, she couldn't love you any more than if you were her own mother.
Oh, I'd like to be. She's an adorable child. Has there been any word from her mother since I've been in the hospital?
No, darling. Your friend Peg seems to have disappeared from the face of the earth.
I can't understand why she'd run away and leave her child.
Well, it might have been that George Lewis who talked her into it. Maybe something happened to both of them.
No, Mother, don't say that. I think we'll hear from Peg someday, and if we don't, Julie can have a home with Barry and me for as long as she wants.
I was wondering if you and Barry had ever talked about that.
Oh, yes, we did many times. He's as fond of her as I am. It'll be fun to have a ready-made daughter all of 6 years old. You know, Johnny looked tired when he was here.
Well, he's been working awfully hard, and you know Johnny. He hasn't had 2 hours sleep in a row since the accident.
Wish he wouldn't worry about me so much.
He can't help it, Penny. That's the way he feels about you, and he'll never get over it.
I wish he would. It's unfair to him.
I know. I told him that, too. But Johnny's doing what he wants to do, and he'll go on wanting to help you. Always, I guess.
I'm sure he will. And I love him very much and always will. I do wish he wouldn't feel he had to devote his life to me just because once we thought we would... Oh, someone's at the door. Answered.
Of course, darling.
Maybe it's someone with more news about Barry.
Well, I hope so. May I come in?
Oh, Mrs. Carlton, of course.
Oh, come in, Mrs. Carlton. Have you seen Barry?
Yes. I just come from his room.
Oh, how is he, Mrs. Carlton?
Did you talk to him? Was he able to talk to you?
Yes, Penny, he was. We talked for just a few minutes, but I can give you a good report.
He's all right?
He's very weak, my child, and still a dangerously sick young man.
Oh,
but I told him that you were getting well, and when he heard that, I could tell by the look on his face that if it's up to him, he'll soon be well again, too.
So the operation was successful, and young Barry Carlton is on the road to recovery. Will Barry live to marry Penny Gibbs? Or are things not as hopeful as they seem? Be sure to listen to the next dramatic episode of Hearts in Harmony. KCB. KCB. KCB means Kroger Cut Beef, and Kroger Cut Beef means more meat for your money. Yes, Kroger Cut Beef gives you more meat, less waste. Because before the meat is weighed and priced, the Kroger method of cutting beef removes excess bone, excess waste, and stringy ends. In buying Kroger cut rib roast, for example, you don't pay rib roast price for excess bone and waste. The chine bone is trimmed, the waist and short rib end removed, giving you top U.S. government grades of beef that's tender, juicy, rich red, and marbled with just the right amount of flavory fat. And before the meat is weighed and priced, the Kroger method of cutting beef removes excess bone, waste, and stringy ends. Remember, whether you buy a steak or roast, Kroger cut beef gives you more meat for your money. Now, yes, now, Kroger's great hot dated coffee brings you an opportunity to win a big, luxurious Hudson sedan, an Alaska sealskin fur coat valued at $1,400, a Westinghouse laundromat, roaster, or a Just-O-Matic electric iron. 1,160 prizes are being given away in 5 weekly contests. The first week's contest closes Wednesday, October 15. Get your entry blank with full details at your Kroger store. Listen in again, same time, same station, for another thrilling transcribed chapter of Hearts in Harmony.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
Detective Sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. The body of an attractive woman has been found in a downtown office building, beaten to death with a piece of lead pipe. The killer has escaped into the city. Your job, find him. Today, friends, you hear these three words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you. Because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine. The taste you want. The mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it is tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want, the mildness you want, join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Thursday, April 15th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. We just left the murder room, and it was 7:40 a.m. when we got to suite 718, the building manager's office. Miss Joyce?
Yes. You men cops?
Yes, ma'am. We understand you're the one who found the body, is that right?
Oh, that's right. I found her. Oh, it was an awful thing.
This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday. Wonder if you feel up to telling us exactly what happened.
Oh, sure. It's just about the most terrible thing ever happened to me.
Something we can get you, ma'am?
Oh, no, thanks. Janie brought me some hot coffee.
Who's Janie?
Janie Alquist. She works the first 3 floors. She brought me some hot coffee.
I see.
She was up here and they let her bring it.
All right, Miss Joyce. Could you just tell us about it, please?
Right from the beginning. You want to hear all about the whole thing?
If you would, please.
Well, I came on at 4, just like always. I punched in and came up to the 10th floor and started in. Got the things out of the closet on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I start on the 7th. But now and then I like to do it a little different, and I start on 10 and work down.
Yes, ma'am. What time was it when you found the body?
Oh, just a few minutes ago. I guess about 7, right around in there. I only had 2 more offices to do, and I'd be finished. I just had 2 more when I got there.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd go ahead and tell us about finding the body.
Oh, well, I unlocked the door, and I saw the light inside. I thought it was kind of funny, because usually it's dark.
You mean in the office?
Yes, and where Mrs. Fitzgerald's desk is, it's usually dark.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought it was kind of funny, like I said. But then I thought that maybe she was working. Mm-hmm. She does accounting, you know, woman accountant, and I thought she was working. Mm-hmm. So I knocked. I didn't just want to go right in if she was working, you know, disturb her. So I knocked. Mm-hmm. But she didn't answer.
Right, go ahead, please.
Well, I opened the door and went in. Right off, I was kind of sore about it. No excuse for a thing like that. No excuse, no.
What do you mean?
Well, didn't you see the place? Didn't you look?
Yeah.
Well, then you know what a mess it was. Papers all over the floor, and ashtrays spilled, all that mess, and I'm supposed to be through at 7:30. Well, I'd never have made it. Never got through on time. And that's when I saw her behind the desk. Oh, it was an awful thing. There she was on the floor, dead.
Yes, ma'am. There was no one else in the office?
No. Just Mrs. Fitzgerald. She was on the floor behind the desk.
What'd you do then?
Oh, I screamed. Loud as I could. I wanted somebody to come up there right away. And that was the first time I ever saw anybody dead. Then I ran out of the office and went downstairs to get somebody to help. Just an awful thing. Oh, poor Mrs. Fitzgerald. Oh, she was so nice. All the time saying hello when she'd come in early and I'd still be working. Oh, I think about it, and I just can't believe that it's true. I just can't hardly believe it.
Did you see anyone on the floor while you were working?
Just Mrs. Fitzgerald.
No, ma'am. I mean, was there anybody in the halls of the building?
Oh, no. No, not that I saw. There wasn't anybody. I'd have seen them if they was there, but they weren't.
All right, Miss Joyce. We'll contact you tomorrow about a statement. Meantime, we'll leave you one of our cards here. If you think of anything we should know, we'd appreciate it if you give us a call.
Oh, I sure will. Anything at all I think of, I'll call you. Can I go now?
Yes, ma'am.
I've got to go home and take a hot bath and calm my nerves.
Surely.
Oh, sure, it's going to be a shock to her husband. Of course, not that he'll mind too much.
I beg your pardon?
Her husband, you know, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes, ma'am. What about him?
Well, just that it isn't going to bother that one too much.
Why do you say that?
Oh, I shouldn't have said anything. Not a word. I shouldn't have told you. I'd get fired, sure.
Well, if it's got anything to do with Miss Fitzgerald's death, maybe you better tell us, don't you think?
Well, if you'll promise not to tell the supervisor.
All right, go ahead.
It gets dull just being in a big building by yourself, all alone at night when there isn't anybody around. It's pretty dull.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, not real often, but just once in a while, I kind of read some of the letters that people throw away, you know, in the wastebasket.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want them anymore, so when it gets real dull, I read them. And I've read some in Mrs. Fitzgerald's office from her husband, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Seems like they've been having some kind of a big fight, going to court and all. I don't know what it's all about, but they've been fighting. And in the letters, he tells how she ought to leave him alone. I guess she's asking for a lot of alimony or something. That's what it sounded like to me. Some of the letters, the way he wrote to her, mean, used to threaten her all the time.
You saw these letters where he threatened her, did you?
Yes. One, I guess it was about a week ago. He said in that if she tried to railroad the thing through, now that's what he said, railroad the thing through, he'd come up here and...
Yes, go ahead.
Well, that's all there is. I couldn't find the other piece of the letter where he said what he was going to do. See, she tore up the letters after she read them.
Mm-hmm. All right, Miss Joyce, thank you very much.
No, I hope I helped.
Yes, ma'am, I certainly have.
I sure wish I could have found that other piece of the letter. No way of knowing what it said.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you suppose he really meant it?
I don't know. We'll ask him. By the time Frank and I had arrived at the scene, the crew from the crime lab was there. Photographs of the entire room were taken, and fingerprints were lifted from the edges of the desk, from the top of a lamp, and from the molding around the door. The murder weapon, a 15-inch section of heavy lead pipe, was booked for evidence. There was nothing we could tell from the pipe itself other than the fact that it was the murder instrument. It was a plain piece of 3/4-inch pipe. One end was wrapped in a heavy brown paper. The other was blood-stained. Because of the appearance of the office, it looked as if robbery was the motive for the crime. However, on examination of the victim's personal effects, we found that 2 large diamond rings were still on her fingers. In her purse, we found cash in the amount of $226. On the desk itself, we found a woman's wristwatch set with 12 diamonds. The fact that none of this had been removed apparently ruled out robbery as the motive. The other employees of the building were questioned, but they were unable to shed any light on a possible suspect. None of them had seen any unauthorized persons in the place after closing hours. People on the street in the immediate vicinity were questioned. The only lead we were able to come up with was that at approximately 7:02 a.m., a newsboy had seen a short, stocky man walk from the office building entrance. Other than the brief description of the man's build, the witness was unable to tell us anything. An immediate broadcast was gotten out on what information we had. From a telephone book in the victim's desk, we got an address for her husband, Oscar Fitzgerald. It was a men's club located in downtown Los Angeles. Frank and I drove over to talk to him.
Come in.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Sit down. I'll call for some coffee. You fellas want some?
No, thanks.
No, sir. You don't mind if I have some?
No, you go right ahead.
Room service, please. Kind of early for the cops to come calling, isn't it?
Yes, sir, I guess it is.
This is Miss Fitzgerald, room 417. Would you please send up a pot of coffee? That's right. Oh, and send a large glass of orange juice, too, huh? Yeah, make sure it's cold. 417. Right. One thing I can't go is warm orange juice. Like a cigarette?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, what's this all about? What do you want to see me for?
Well, when's the last time you saw your wife?
Ada?
Thank you.
I guess a couple of weeks ago. Why?
Well, can you narrow that down to a day?
Why? Any special reason for me to?
Well, we'd like to hear it.
Well, let's see. I guess it was around March 30th. I can check it if it's important.
Where'd you see her?
With my lawyers, we had a conference to try and work out the divorce and settlement.
What line of work are you in, Fitzgerald?
I think you better tell me what this is all about before I answer any more questions. If this is some sort of trick Ada's trying, you tell her it won't work and she can get off my back.
No, it's no trick. I think it might be better if you'd cooperate with us and answer the question.
All right, but I'm going to tell you going in that if you try to pull a fast one, I'm going to deny everything I tell you now.
If you tell us the truth, you won't have any trouble. Now, where do you work?
Right now, I'm between.
What's that mean exactly?
Well, I'm an actor right now. I haven't got an assignment.
Where'd you work last?
Picture studio. Look, until you tell me what this is for, I'm not going to give you any names.
Can you give us your movements for the past few days?
Starting when?
Well, let's try the day before yesterday.
Okay, I got up and went out to see my agent. Of course, that was a waste of time. Hung around the office for a couple hours and then had lunch on the strip. After that, I came downtown, saw a movie. I came home, took a shower, and then kept the dinner engagement.
You prove that?
If I have to, yeah. But you're getting no names until I know what's going on.
All right, how about yesterday? What'd you do then?
I got up and went out to my agent's. He told me he had a part on the fire. We went out on an interview. I was at the studio until about 4:30, and then we went back to my agent's office and had a couple of drinks. After that, I came back here, didn't feel too good, and I went to bed.
Well, the man at the desk would be able to verify all that, would he?
Yeah, just ask him.
Fitzgerald, how'd you get along with your wife?
Well, it's not any of your business, but I'll tell you. It isn't any secret. I hated everything about it.
You ever have any fights with her?
Not more than 5 a week for the past 4 years.
You ever hit her?
You know, people win money for answering questions on quiz shows. What happens if I answer the big one?
Well, that depends on how you're going to answer it. We understand you wrote your wife some threatening letters now, is that right?
I guess you could call them that, yeah. I told her to get off my back and leave me alone. Told her if she didn't, she was building more trouble than she could handle.
You ever threaten her life?
No. I'm not going to try to tell you that there weren't times when I could have killed Ada. There were a lot of them, but it wasn't worth it, not for her.
What'd you argue about mostly?
The divorce. I've been trying to get one for the last 4 years. Ada wouldn't see it. Finally, when I did talk her into it, the settlement she wanted was way out of line. I wouldn't go for it and told her so. What's all this about the fights and the threatening, anyway? Something happened to Ada, is that it?
Yes, sir.
She been hurt?
I'm afraid it's more serious than that.
She dead?
Yes, sir.
You think I did?
Now we're checking everybody that knew her.
Okay, I told her there were times when I could have, when I maybe wanted to. But I wouldn't go to jail for her. Not ever. You got to find another boy, and when you do, I'll go his lawyer's fee.
Yeah.
How'd they do it?
Piece of lead pipe.
Bad?
Yeah.
Rough way to go.
Is there an easy way? We made a preliminary search of the room, but we found nothing that would tie in the victim's husband, Oscar Fitzgerald, with the crime. We talked to the desk clerk, and he verified the man's story that he'd been in his apartment the evening of the killing. Fitzgerald made arrangements with us to attend the coroner's inquest, and Frank and I went back to the city hall. We checked with the crime lab on their investigation. Lieutenant Lee Jones told us that they'd been able to lift several partial fingerprints from the murder weapon, but that they were impossible to classify. He went on to say that the other prints that had been found at the scene were unusable as evidence, since it would be difficult to get enough points for identification. The other physical evidence taken from the office was of little use. A check had been made of the piece of pipe, but it was found to be of a common type and impossible to trace. Microphotographs had been made of the serrated edges, and these had been booked as evidence. We asked the stats office to make a run on the M.O. of the crime, and they told us that they would start through their files immediately. For the next 2 days, Frank and I talked to all of the friends and relatives of the victim, attempting to find a motive for the crime. From what we had to work on, the only plausible reason for the killing was either revenge or jealousy. None of Mrs. Fitzgerald's friends or business acquaintances were able to point out anyone with a strong enough reason to kill the woman. Monday, April 19th, Frank and I got back to the office after interviewing one of the victim's business competitors.
Well, that's another one that didn't go anyplace.
It seems like that's all we've been drawing on this one, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'll check the book.
All right. Anything come in from the stats office yet?
No. Said they'd have the rest to run for us this afternoon.
First punch didn't turn anything. I got it. Homicide, Friday. Yeah, Jack. Anything on him? Sure. We're no place now. Well, no, anything's got to be. You want to give me that address? All right. All right, we'll check it. Good. All right, Jack. Thanks again. Bye. Jack McCready says he talked to one of his informants this morning. Guy came up with a couple of good things, maybe.
Yeah?
One of them's about a guy in the Olympia bar at 4th and Kohler. Fellow's pretty drunk. Been doing a lot of talking down there.
Something for us?
Maybe. He's bragging about beating a woman to death with a piece of pipe. 4:40 p.m. We left the office and drove over to the corner of 4th and Kohler, the Olympia bar. When we walked in, there were only a few customers in the place. At the far end of the bar, a short, stocky man was sitting alone. In front of him was an empty shot glass and a bottle of beer. He appeared to be pretty drunk, and as we entered, he was talking to the other people seated at the bar.
Any of you guys that don't believe it, you just come outside with me. I'll show you. Show you all, every one of you. Bartender, I got an empty glass. Now, let's do something about it, huh? I need a drink.
I think you had about enough of that, don't you?
What?
I said you had enough to drink.
Who are you to tell me that, huh? Who are you to come in here and tell me what to do? What's the matter? You think you're cops or something, huh? Is that what you think?
You called it. Come on, we want to talk to you.
You mean you are cops?
That's right.
Well, listen, you better get out of here and do it fast if you know what's good for you. You just better.
Frank? Yeah.
Take your hands off me. You guys don't hear good, do you?
Stand still.
You come messing around with me, you're going to find out. You'll find out good. I'll give you the same thing I gave her, the same thing.
Hold it, Frank. All right, come on, mister. Who are you talking about?
I'll tell you who. I'll tell you good. And you'll know leave me alone if you know what's good for you. I'm talking about that Ada Fitzgerald, that's who. Ada. You go messing with me and you'll get what she got. I'm a pretty rough fella, you know. Pretty rough.
That's right.
You betcha. You're not dealing with a kid, you know.
Well, that makes it even then, doesn't it?
Huh?
You're not dealing with a woman. We took the suspect down to the homicide squad room. He identified himself as Carl Neely. He was handcuffed to a chair, and we ran his name through the record bureau. He had a long string of arrests for various charges, including attempted robbery, assault, and assault with intent to do great bodily harm. He'd never been convicted on a felony, but his record showed that he'd served 2 terms in the county jail for drunk charges and creating a public nuisance. While we were checking his record, the suspect passed out in an alcoholic stupor in the squad room. We contacted Sergeant Jack McCready and Officer Danny Galindo and asked them to make a search of the suspect's residence. In going over the place, they'd found a blood-stained shirt and a coat. The garments were packed in a cardboard box that had been hidden under the kitchen sink. They were brought downtown to us along with an empty envelope found in the apartment. It had been sent to the suspect, Neely, and the return address on the back indicated that the letter had been sent by the victim's husband, Oscar Fitzgerald. We waited for the suspect to come to enough for us to question him. Frank went out and brought back some hot coffee. We tried to get Neely to drink some of it. 8:40 p.m.
It's got hot.
All right, come on, try some more.
You're cops, huh?
You've been the route before.
Yeah. What am I here for?
I want to talk to you about the Fitzgerald woman.
Ada? Spouting off again.
You said you killed her.
Figures. Every time I get tanked up, I always kill somebody. Whatever fails.
All right, tell us about the Fitzgerald woman.
Nothing to tell. I read about it in the papers. This morning I started drinking. It always happens when I've been belting the booze. I right away tell people I killed somebody.
These clothes here belong to you?
Let me see. I don't know. Where'd you get them?
Are they yours?
I don't know.
You got that many clothes? I know all the clothes I got. No trouble at all.
You don't dress as good as me.
All right, come off it, Neely. You're in trouble. Big trouble here. You sat in the bar this morning, told everybody about how you'd beaten a woman to death. We find these clothes in your apartment, bloodstains all over them. Here's another thing, this envelope. Where'd you get this?
Through the mail, like it says. You see the stamp?
You know Oscar Fitzgerald?
I don't get mail from strangers. Sure I know him. Is it a crime to get a letter now?
What was in that envelope?
I don't think that's none of your business.
Well, we do. What kind of dealings have you got with Oscar Fitzgerald?
You used to work for him?
Doing what?
I took care of the place when him and Ada were married, sort of a general handyman.
When'd you see him last?
I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, around there, 3 months.
And what did he find so important that he wrote you about it?
Look, he loaned me some money. He sent me a check.
It was a loan, huh?
Yeah.
Sign any sort of note for the money?
Well, I endorsed the check. It said on it was a loan. What are you guys trying to prove, anyway? You trying to tie me in with Ada's killing?
You look good for it.
You're off your rocker. I had nothing to do with it. Sure, you got me for drunk, but that's all.
Your record makes you look good for it.
Clothes we found in your apartment don't help you.
You sure Oscar Fitzgerald didn't pay you to kill his wife?
It'd be a lot better if you told us the truth here, Neely.
I'm telling you the truth. It's right in front of you. All you got to do is open your eyes. It's there.
Where'd the bloodstains come from?
They're mine.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, I got in a fight with another fella.
Where?
A bar down on 7th.
When?
Wednesday.
Last week?
Yeah, last Wednesday.
What time did you have this fight?
Closing time?
That'd make it about 2 o'clock, huh?
That's when the bar's closed.
Where'd you go after you had the fight?
Went up to a friend's house and had a couple more drinks.
Who's a friend?
You don't know him. He's got no record.
What's his name?
I don't want him dragged into anything.
What's his name?
Jackie Meadows.
Let me see your hands, Neely.
Sure.
Well, you got some pretty bad bruises there. You must have hit something pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Fight I told you about, that's where those came from.
Tell us what you did after you left the bar.
I told you I went up to Jackie's. I had a couple of drinks.
What time did you get there?
Around 3, maybe 3:10.
What time did you leave?
About 5.
Where'd you go?
I don't remember too good. I was pretty boozed up.
Well, where do you think you went?
Well, Jackie was worried about me being cut up from the fight. He wanted me to see a doctor.
Yeah?
He drove me down to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital.
Yeah.
I was there until 9:30 Thursday morning.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
World altitude records. World speed records. All part of Bill Bridgman's job as a supersonic test pilot for Douglas Aircraft. You read about Bill in Time magazine. Now let's meet one of the world's fastest humans, and Jacqueline Hazard, who is collaborating with Bill on his new book, Test Pilot. They smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette, Chesterfield.
I smoke the king size. After hearing what the Chesterfield people have been saying about them, I thought I should try them. I'm convinced they're best for me.
It's Chesterfields for me, too, but I like the regular size. Either way, they're everything Bill says, and they're really mild.
You try Chesterfields. I think you'll find they're best for you.
Yes, for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
The call was put through to Dr. Hall at Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, asking if a patient was given emergency treatment on the morning of Thursday, April 15th. A search of the hospital records verified the story told to us by the suspect, Carl Neely. We checked through our crime reports, and we found that a miscellaneous injury report had been made. From the coroner's report, we knew that the victim had been murdered between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. on that morning. We got in touch with Neely's friend, Jackie Meadows, and he also verified the suspect's story. He was booked in at the main jail on a charge of being drunk in a public place, and Frank and I started checking out the remainder of the list that the stats office had given us. Originally, there had been 12 names on the list. We talked to 10 of them. The 11th, a Norman Sitkin, had a record of burglary, attempted robbery, and assault with a deadly weapon. He'd been arrested and brought to trial on a charge of murder 3 years previously, but he'd been acquitted. The circumstances surrounding his arrest were the same as those in the Fitzgerald case. The main reason he'd been released a free man was the testimony of his mother, who had sworn that Sitkin had been home with her on the night of the killing. When we went out to his home, we found that he wasn't there. We talked to his mother, and she told us that he'd been in San Diego for the past 3 days. Under interrogation, we established the fact that on the night of the Fitzgerald killing, Sitkin hadn't been at home, but that he had been in Los Angeles. We put in a call to the San Diego authorities and talked to Lieutenant Mort Gear in the homicide detail. We contacted the hotel where he was staying in Los Angeles, and a 24-hour stakeout was placed on the location. Wednesday, April 21st. Frank and I got back from lunch.
Better put in a call to Mort, huh? See if we got anything on Sitkin?
Yeah. You want to do it?
Right.
Okay.
Hi, this is Frank Smith, robbery. Yeah, I'd like to put in a call to San Diego PD Homicide Bureau. Lieutenant Mort Gear. No, it's a homicide. Yeah, DR 132549. Yeah, that's the one. Mm-hmm. That's 3268? Huh? Oh, 58. Right. Okay, Sam, thanks. I'm on this one, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Homicide Friday. Yes, sir? No, that's right. When was that? Yes, sir. Right away. Cancel that call, Frank.
What do you got?
Sitkin just walked into his hotel. Frank and I left the office immediately and drove out to Sitkin's hotel. We talked to the officers on stakeout, and they told us that the suspect had just returned. They went on to explain that they'd given Sitkin no reason to suspect that anything was wrong and that he'd gone directly to his room. Frank and I got in the elevator, and we went up to the 4th floor.
Yeah?
Yeah? What do you want?
You Norman Sitkin?
Yeah, what do you want?
Police officer.
Come on. You got no right to do this. Let me see your warrant.
Get your coat, Sitkin. We want to talk to you.
What for? What do you got to talk to me about? I got nothing to say.
Get your coat.
Why? What's the charge? What are you taking me in for?
Suspicion of murder?
You're kidding.
Well, you just keep thinking then.
You mean this is for real?
Come on, let's go.
No, wait a minute. I want to know what this is all about.
Is that so?
Well, sure. Figure I had something to do with that woman who was beaten to death downtown. Fitzgerald, I think that's the name, huh? Isn't that what you think?
Well, you seem to know all about it.
Well, you're way off on this one. I got an alibi that you can't break. I can see you guys figuring because I stood this kind of beef once before, you can make it stick this time. Well, it won't work, cop. None of it fits together. I can prove where I was that night every minute.
All right.
That's right, every minute. You check in my house. Happens I was with my mother, just like the other time. All night I was home.
You're going to stand on that?
Well, there isn't any other way.
Well, it's going to make it a lot easier then.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
We talked to your mother. She says you weren't home that night.
Well, she's wrong. You let me talk to her. She'll tell you. You just let me talk to her.
She's sure you weren't there. She's willing to testify to that.
Get out of my way!
All right, come on. Let me get the cuffs.
Yeah. Hold still. Funny, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, looks like he might have been good on that first killing, the one he was acquitted on. His mother might have lied on the stand.
That's not going to make a lot of difference, is it?
Huh?
He's going to make up for it on this one.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On August 17th, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Earlier, George Fenneman told you exactly why the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you. Now, the rest is up to you. Get a carton or two for yourself. Smoke them and you'll say as we do, it's Chesterfields for me.
Norman Edward Sitkin was tried and convicted for murder in the first degree. On recommendation of the jury, he received the maximum penalty, and on July 19th, he was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the State Penitentiary, San Quentin, California. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Virginia Gregg, Herb Ellis. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters, the one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste, much more flavor, much less nicotine, and effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product alpha cellulose, absolutely pure, non-mineral, harmless to health. Yes, this is it. As Helen Hayes puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
Tired of the everyday grind? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all? We offer you Escape.
Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
passenger aboard a submarine, making its last peaceful voyage across the sea. While unknown to you, the captain has a plan, which, if it succeeds, will mean for you and the entire crew a fate from which there can be no escape.
So listen now as Escape brings you Mary Ann Mosner and Francis Rosenwald's exciting story, The Log.
When I was a cub reporter, my boss told me, be there. Don't let your own emotions color your story. Stick to the facts. So, these are the facts. This is the way it happened. I met Captain Jan Zabatos in a Scandinavian port. During the last war, he'd been in command of a submarine, the only sub of a nation that fought the dictators side by side with the Allies. When he was finally forced into this neutral port, the captain preferred internment to surrender. After that, his nation went out of the business of being a nation. He was left behind with his ship, unwanted by the Allies, and a burden to the government that had become his permanent host. To pay for the vessel's berth and maintenance, the authorities turned her into a tourist exhibit, permitting her skipper to stay aboard as caretaker and tourist guide. We met during one of those guided tours.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the tour of the SS Seagull, a great ship with a peerless war record. It was my honor and privilege to guide her across hostile waters as master of this man of war that gave battle to the last torpedo. Thank you. No, thank you. You are very welcome all. Now, this way if you please.
You've got a few minutes, Captain? I'm Bill Rawlins, New York Globe. I enjoyed your tour a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Rawlins. Always glad to talk to gentlemen of the press. I presume you would like to write a story on the Seagull?
Well, to be honest about it, sir, I'd rather write about her skipper.
I am honored. But without the Seagull, you won't have much of a story. She and I are comrades in arms.
The war has been over a long time, Captain.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Haven't you ever thought of going home?
Mr. Rawlins, this is my home, and always will be.
As we walked across the deck, the Seagull came to life the way her skipper talked about her exploits at sea. And I saw 1,500 tons of steel that had never faltered, never failed. I was busy taking notes when the man came up the gangplank, stocky, brisk, dressed in a natty gray suit, a briefcase under his arm.
How do, gentlemen? Where do I find the man in charge?
I'm in command of the Seagull, Captain Jan Zabatos. What can I do for you?
The name's Andrews, saves the card. I represent the Liverpool office of the Marine Salvage and Surplus Corporation. Do you mind if I look around?
The next tour of the Seagull commences at 16 o'clock.
That's fine. You go right ahead. I know my way around ships. Bought and sold them all my life. This is my first time.
I'm afraid you must be mistaken, sir. The Seagull is not for sale.
Not anymore. My company just bought her. I closed the deal yesterday.
Look, this can't be. Nobody has authority to sell my ship.
The government has, according to international law. This isn't your ship anymore, Captain. Do you realize what it costs this country to keep her docked here?
I suppose I knew that this was going to happen. Excuse me, sir, what does your company plan to do with the Seagull?
Scrap her. What else is she good for?
Yes, of course. What else? You plan to break her up here?
No, we'll have to tow her across to Liverpool.
Mr. Andrews, the Seagull is perfectly capable to sail under her own power.
All the way across the North Sea? No, it must be pretty rusty by now.
My ship is in as good condition as she was 10 years ago when we put in this port.
I know how you feel, Skipper, but if you don't mind, I'd rather play it safe.
No, I don't think I made myself clear, sir. This ship has had the finest maintenance that you find aboard any vessel. I have seen to that myself. Would you care to go below and look about, sir?
Sure, why not?
Then if you will follow me. Rust and corrosion, I will tell you.
She was a beauty, all right. Her diesels reposing in gleaming silence. Her eye, a Zeiss periscope, set to scan the horizon. Her tubes ready for torpedoes. I felt a strange affinity toward this ship that to Andrews meant just so many tons of metal to be turned into X amount of dollars. while to her captain she was a whole world of tradition. A world now coming to an end.
And still, I suppose you think that the Seagull should be dismantled and scrapped?
Well, I'm afraid that's what we bought her for.
Then may I respectfully make a last request on her behalf?
I'll be happy to oblige if it's anything reasonable.
Don't tow her away like a crippled ship. Let me guide her on this last journey. All we need is 1 week, a skeleton crew. My services are free.
I don't know. All right. I'll tell you what, Skipper. I'll check with my company and get in touch with you.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to me, Andrews. You'd be saving your company quite a bit of money.
My firm's allergic to taking chances.
You don't take chances with the Seagull.
The cold logic of the dollar in the bank, not the captain's last request, persuaded the scrap middleman to take a well-calculated risk on the Seagull and her master. Mr. Andrews was to accompany the ship on her final journey. I requested and was granted permission to go along and cover the voyage for my paper. It was a gray, overcast morning when we boarded the Seagull. She was straining gently at her anchors with the last of the ebb tide.
Well, Skipper hired a decent cook. Nothing like sea air to give a man an appetite.
I'm not looking forward to a picnic, Mr. Andrews. All I want is a story.
You won't find it in this barge, Rawlins. But I can give you plenty of stories. My company isn't averse to publicity.
When we reached the bridge, we found a changed man. Captain Jan Zabados, commander of the submarine Seagull, wearing a freshly creased uniform, windbreaker, and his well-worn battle cap.
Anchor secure, sir.
All engines back aft.
All engines back aft, sir.
Course 005.
005, sir.
Port engine back 2/3. Starboard engine ahead, standard.
Port engine back 2/3. Starboard engine ahead, standard, sir.
Stand by, all hands.
Standing by, sir.
Now, well, gentlemen, we are all.
A little chilly this morning, Skipper.
Perfect weather.
Makes you hungry anyway. What time do we...
Breakfast will be served in my quarters in 10 minutes, Mr. Andrews.
Come on down, Rawlins. Let's get some chow.
We had breakfast. It was better than Andrews had expected. And he was in an expansive mood when we returned to the bridge. He'd fortified himself with a thick cigar which stuck out of his mouth like a stubby finger pointed at the captain.
How's it going, Skipper?
Passing the 3-mile zone, sir.
Weather seems to be clearing up. Maybe we can do a little deep sea fishing, huh, Rollins?
I have never fished from a submarine, Mr. Andrews.
Sorry, gentlemen. No fishing. This is not a pleasure cruise.
That's the step, Skipper. Business before pleasure.
And I agree, sir. You will leave the bridge now.
Why, what's wrong?
Nothing, sir. We are getting ready to submerge.
What are you talking about? Submerge? On whose orders?
My orders, Mr. Andrews.
Nothing doing. That's against regulations, and you know it. This trip is to be made on the surface unless there's an emergency.
Clear diving rudders.
Diving rudders clear, sir.
Did you hear what I said?
Ready the tanks.
Tank standing by, sir.
That's enough, Sabatos. You know what the orders are. I'm not going to allow you...
I must inform you, sir, that I am in sole command of the Seagull. I shall surrender her to no one but her rightful owner, my country.
Your country? You've got no country. It's a satellite.
Then I shall sail the seas until I have one again.
You know what you're saying? That's piracy.
Then, Mr. Andrews, I shall be a pirate, shan't I? Clear to deck. Diving stations.
Diving stations.
Come out of your mind.
Passengers below, please. Now that's an order, Mr. Andrews.
Standing by, sir.
Well, I'd found my story. When we slipped beneath the surface of the North Sea, the captain let the men have rum and brandy to celebrate the Seagull's return to what he called active duty.
He's crazy. He's gone stark raving crazy. Look at the crew that madman picked himself.
Well, we'll see about this. Hey, Bosun! Bosun! Come over here. You know how to handle this ship?
I know my job, sir.
How'd you like a bonus, say $1,000?
I like it fine, sir.
All right. Take over. Never mind the captain. I'll back you up.
I'm sorry, sir. He's my captain.
I'm in charge of this ship. He's under my orders.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. I'm under his orders.
That's how it went with the rest of the crew. They were all men without a country, handpicked by the captain, fanatically devoted to their master and the ship that was their world. In the meantime, I noticed some activity on the part of the captain and his radio operator. A constant flow of communications between the ship's wireless and their master's tiny cabin. Andrews and I went there. The captain was sitting on the bunk, poring over a chart-filled table.
Mind if you and I have a little talk? I'm quite busy. 5 minutes, Mr. Andrews. Thank you.
Don't you think this farce has gone far enough? You'll be running out of supplies, you know, and then what?
The sea is abundant with stores of all kinds, Mr. Andrews.
How do you mean?
I shall requisition what I need.
You can't be serious.
Can't I? I have guns, fore and aft, shells to go with them. Give me time, I shall obtain torpedoes as well.
You'll never get away with this.
That remains to be seen. My wireless has picked up the Blenheim Castle, an English freighter. We will sight her by nightfall.
You're going to stop her?
Exactly, Mr. Andrews. There are a few supplies that we need. I am sure her captain will oblige before continuing on his way.
We will return to Escape in just a moment, but first, maybe it rained where you are today. The United States is pretty big, and it's hard for somebody on a coast-to-coast network to keep track of the weather everywhere. But even if they did, remember, it's been a very dry summer. The danger of forest fires is on every hand. Please be careful with those campfires, those cigarettes, those lighted matches. And now, back to Escape.
Approximately 8 hours later, the bosun's pipe shrilled as the Seagull rose stealthily to the ocean surface. Dead ahead in a choppy sea loomed the massive hull of the freighter Blenheim Castle, her foaming nose eerily phosphorescent, the position lights glimmering across the sea. Our searchlight reached up to her bridge with a long white finger. We clearly made out the tanker's captain standing on his bridge in a splotch of white glare, bellowing through a megaphone.
Hey! Ho, 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 ho! Heave to! Coming alongside! Who are you? Raider! Pass a line! Raider! I won't talk a telltale! Where's the war? It is starting now! That's a bloody lie! Heave away! Ready above, or you will be sunk! Why, you kettle-bottom, knock-down half-fighter! I'll bust your cat till you make water! Follow my orders, or I open fire! Why don't you back up and cook off? I give you 3 minutes. I'll give you a kick in the belly!
It was incredible. Here we were at peace, and Captain Zabatos had started his own private war. He had the guns, and the tanker's captain had only his ship. Before the Seagull's gun crew could get a bearing, the tanker lurched forward, picking up speed. Wheeled hard over, bent on ramming us. Our guns started to fire, blasting away at the tanker. But it kept coming on. Closer, closer. The sharp bow cutting through the choppy sea.
Dive! 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 Dive!
We weren't fast enough. There was a grinding lurch. And we knew the Seagull had been damaged in the collision with the freighter, but we couldn't tell how badly. The first realization of disaster came when we saw the captain. His hair damp with perspiration, eyes gleaming feverishly, and a face turned ashen gray.
Nobody leaves his station without my orders. You gentlemen stay out of the way.
I'm not going to take orders from you or anybody else. I represent the owners of this ship.
You do?
You heard me, Sabatos.
Then tell your owner she has been rammed.
I'll hold you responsible.
As her commander, I accept sole responsibility for ship and crew, including you and Mr. Rollins.
That's very noble, mister, but I'm a businessman. What's the extent of the damage?
Conning tower smashed and the scope tube cracked.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, surface, send an SOS.
I never have sent an SOS, and I never will.
That's your business. I'm an American citizen, and so is Mr. Rollins. You can't hold us against our...
You will be put ashore when conditions are favorable.
Let me set you straight about this. If you want to go down in misery, I'm not stopping you. But you can't force me to stick around until this tin can's full of holes. I want to get out of here. I order you for the last time surface to signal for help.
Andrews, if you wish to leave now, you may take a escape pack.
You're crazy.
Not at all. The damage is trifling. But since you feel so frightened of your life, I suggest that you leave.
So help me, when we get out of this, I'm going to have you busted, jailed, hung if I can.
Get out of my way if you please. I have no time to discuss the matter with you.
Come on, Andrews.
Whose side are you on, anyway, Rollins?
Nobody's. I just want to live. The hours passed slowly at the ocean bottom. The stillness echoing the attempts of the men working to repair the damage. The air was getting foul, breathing becoming more difficult.
Storage battery's going, sir.
Then dim the lights, bosun.
Oxygen's running low.
Ration it.
I've got 2 men in sick bay already.
All right. All right. Carry on.
Sir.
What is it, bosun?
The men need air. It's very bad aft.
All right. Very well, bosun. We go up. All engines ready.
All engines ready, sir.
Clear pressure tanks.
Clearing tank, sir.
Diving rudder. Standard.
Vessels approaching overhead, sir.
Ease rudder, hold tanks. Surface vessel calling on out channel, sir. Don't answer.
British subjects are closing in, sir. Request ship-to-ship communication.
All right. I talked with him. Stand by.
SS Seagull coming in. Go ahead, NS-127.
Are you in trouble, Seagull? No trouble, sir. Surface at once. State your conditions.
No.
Then I regretfully refuse, sir.
Following orders, Seagull. Come up, or we drop depth charges.
Do so, then.
You can't get away. We've got a sonar fix on you.
No surrender.
We're ready with depth charges, Seagull.
Wait! Get back!
Americans down here! We need help!
Lost communications!
The first depth charge was a warning, followed by another coming closer. Still closer. The pressure was enormous. The ship rocked from bow to stern and started to take water.
All engines ahead full!
All engines ahead full, sir.
Course 02, standard.
Course 02, standard, sir.
Oh, quiet, Captain. This is wrong. It can't help now.
Stand out of my way, Mr. Rollins.
You're a naval officer, not a murderer. Your ship is finished. You have no right to kill your crew. And that's what it's going to mean if you don't stop.
This is my ship. My life. No, you don't understand.
It's still murder.
Standing by for your order, sir.
Well, what are you going to do?
Oh. Surface!
Surface!
Surface! Stand by, surface!
No response, sir. Tanks won't operate.
All engines stop!
All engines stop!
Now what?
I seem to have no choice. Do I? Stand by to abandon ship.
Abandon ship!
That was almost the end of it. The sub couldn't get up to the surface. She could only go down. And the way she was taking water, it wasn't going to be long. The men lined up outside the escape chamber. And one by one, they shook hands with the captain as they moved by. You could see in his eyes what they meant to him. And in their low voices, their feelings for him.
Goodbye, Captain. Goodbye, sir. Goodbye, Captain. Goodbye, Mr. Captain.
Goodbye, Captain.
Goodbye, sir.
Then it was Andrew's turn to go.
The bosun is in the lock. He will give you instructions as to how to get to the surface.
I lived through this, Apollos. I'm going to see
I know. I am sorry for the discomfort you have been caused. Goodbye, Mr. Andrews.
Coming, Rollins? Sure. You go ahead. One at a time, you know.
Well, good luck.
And to you.
Now, Mr. Owens, huh? I imagine you will have quite a story to write for your newspaper.
Well, let's forget that. It's not important. What about you? Andrews isn't kidding, you know. Once you get up there...
I wonder if... Would you do me one last service?
Of course. He got his log out and started to write. I looked over his shoulder as he made his last entry. All men off ship. Strong list to port. Storage batteries 0. Oxygen 20. Ship secure. Signed Captain Jan Zabatos. Commander SS Seagull.
You oblige me by taking this log up with you. It can be fastened to your belt.
Well, why don't you carry it?
There are one or two other things I must have with me.
Now, look.
No, Mr. Owens, go on. I will follow you.
Yes, but...
Please go on.
Okay. Hurry up, though, will you? She won't last long. I got up to the surface. A boat from the sub-chaser picked me up 5 minutes later. Every man of the crew and Andrews was safe. After that, we cruised about for hours, waiting, hoping that Zabatos would appear. But he didn't. I should have known he'd stay with the Seagull. The skipper of the chaser understood what had happened a lot better after he'd read the log. I guess seamen have a feeling about such things. Well, that's the story. That's all there is to it.
Under the direction of Anthony Ellis, Escape has brought you The Log, a story by Marianne Mosner and Francis Rosenwald, starring Lawrence Dobkin and Byron Kane. Featured in the cast were Alan Reed, Kurt Martell, Frank Gerstle, Eric Snowden, Richard Peel, and Jim Nesser. The special music for Escape was composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Next week.
You are walking the streets of an Indian city. Terrifying, sweltering streets. While the man you fear has already made his mark on you. A mark from which there can be no escape.
So listen next week, when Escape will bring you James Henderson's frightening story, The Untouchable. I Confess is the graphic title of tomorrow night's Lux Radio Theater film play adaptation. Cary Grant and Phyllis Thaxter co-star. You'll remember I Confess as one of Alfred Hitchcock's most suspenseful thrillers, and you'll enjoy every minute of it on most of these same stations tomorrow night when CBS Radio presents the Lux Radio Theater. This is Roy Rowan speaking. Remember, you can hear Jack Benny every Sunday night on the CBS Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned the missing persons detail. You get a call that a young mother and a 9-month-old baby have disappeared. Routine investigation turns up the possibility of foul play. Your job? Find them. Today, friends, you hear these 3 words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality. Low nicotine, the taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it's tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield. Always say, Chesterfield's for me.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, August 12th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Homicide Division, missing persons detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. We were on our way out from the office, and it was 10:14 a.m. when we got to 1865 Malabar Street. Manager's apartment.
Better try it again, huh?
Yeah.
Just a minute. I'm moving as fast as I can.
Sounds like she's got trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Miss Fleischer?
Yeah, what do you want?
Police officers, ma'am. We'd like to talk to you.
Come in. I got to take care of that kid.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ma'am.
Sit down. I'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
Sounds like colic to me.
All right?
Yeah, sounds like colic. Wonder if she's got a hot water bottle.
What?
Hot water bottle. Put it on the kid's stomach. Makes him feel better.
Oh.
Both of ours had the colic. Pour out 3 hot water bottles.
On 2 kids?
No, Joe. We lost the stopper on one of them.
Baby's teething, having a rough time.
Oh.
This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday. We'd like to ask you some questions about one of your tenants.
Oh, which one?
Mrs. Shipley. We understand she had apartment 207.
Yeah, she did. What about her?
You know where we can get in touch with her?
You got any idea?
When did you see her last?
Guess it must have been a month ago.
Possible you might be able to give us an exact date on that?
Well, if I could have done that, I told you right out. I got nothing to hide.
Well, we didn't mean to say that you had,
Well,
ma'am.
it sounded like it. Sounded an awful lot like it. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes, ma'am.
When Harriet first moved in here, we got along fine. She was all the time wanting me to tell her how to take care of the baby when it came.
Yes, ma'am. Go
Got
ahead.
along just fine. Used to have our little cup of coffee in the afternoon. Chummy. Then all of a sudden it all got different.
Well, how was that?
Just did. Her husband was overseas. In the Army. I guess Harriet missed him pretty much. Anyway, she was always saying how she did. Wished he could be here when the baby was born. Got terrible depressed.
I see.
Moody, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
I did what I could to cheer her up. Used to go up there and we'd sit and talk. Taught her how to knit. Gave her some needles and yarns, a little present. I thought maybe it'd give her something to think about. Kind of take her mind off her and her husband. Didn't do no good.
Well, how long had her husband been away, do you know?
4 months this time. He's over in Japan, I think, Army.
Mm-hmm.
Harriet used to go out once in a while, go down to the show. Seemed like just about every picture she saw made her sadder. I guess that's why she did it. Just got so sad she couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, what's that?
Tried to kill herself.
Shipley?
Yeah. I got the kids in bed one night and went up there. I hadn't heard nothing from her that day, so I went up to see how she was. Good thing I did, too. Found her right there in the living room. She cut her wrists. Right away, I called for the doctor, and all the ambulances and police came running around. Took her to the hospital. Big deal. Guess I found her in time, though. They pulled her through.
Mm-hmm.
I walk up there and find her dying. That far from death's door, and when she comes home from the hospital, what thanks do you think I get?
I wouldn't know. Go ahead.
Nothing. Not a single solitary word do I get. She's mad. Says I should have left her alone, let her done it. Come in here when she got back and read me off in words that I ain't used to hearing.
Uh-huh.
I got 5 kids, mister. They take a lot of time, and I ain't got enough to go running around after nobody who don't thank a person for saving their life like that. I called it quits right then. Right at that minute, we were no longer friends.
Mm-hmm. When did she make the attempt on her life?
Last September. I don't remember the date. I think it was the 2nd. Maybe the 3rd week. I'm not sure about what day it was. Anyway, after I saved her life, she's mad at me.
She have any people here in Los Angeles, would you know?
I never heard her talking none. She's got a sister. I don't know, but I don't know where she is. Don't think Harriet ever said.
Well, what did she say to you when she left? She give you any idea where she was going?
I didn't even see her. She didn't even come by and say so long. Goodbye, take a jump, nothing. She just left. One night she's here, next morning she's gone.
She get any mail while she was here?
Yeah. Once in a while she'd get a letter from her husband. Then there was a couple of letters from San Francisco. I don't know who they was from.
She take everything with her? All of her personal things?
Nothing. Left it all here. Of course, it's not much, but it's all here.
I see. Where are the things, ma'am?
Downstairs in the basement. I got it all put away in case she ever comes back. Gonna cost her, too. Storage and for me to pack it. I told you it isn't much. Some dresses, a few clothes for the baby, phonograph, couple of records. That's about it. You can see them if you want them.
We'd like to take a look at them before we leave.
Yeah, sure thing. Can't let you take them, though. I gotta collect for the storage.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Shipley have any close friends that you know of?
Not that I know of. Of course, she might have had some down at the Dream Palace.
Where's that?
Where she worked. Dance hall downtown. She was kind of hostess there.
Mm-hmm. That's the name of the place, is it? Dream Palace?
Yeah. She might have had some friends down there. None of them ever came here, though. At least if they did, I never saw them.
Do you know of any reason that she might have left in such a hurry?
Not right off, I can't think of one. There was something wrong with her, though, when she came back from the hospital. You know, when she had the baby, she was worried about something.
Would you know what it was?
No, all I know is that when she'd been home a couple of days, she came down here and asked me to do some work on the apartment. I told her if she wanted anything done, she could do it herself the way she talked to me.
Well, what'd she want done?
Silliest thing I ever heard of. She didn't have anything to steal.
Well?
She wanted all the locks on the doors changed.
"10:46 a.m. In the company of the apartment manager, Barbara Fleischer, Frank and I went down to the basement and looked through the missing woman's effects. Other than the phonograph, several cardboard boxes of used baby clothes, and cheap woman's dresses, we found nothing. There were no snapshots or letters to aid us in ascertaining where she might have gone. We asked Mrs. Fleischer to notify us in the event that she heard from the Shipley woman. We put in a call to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital and verified the story about the attempted suicide. 11:15 a.m. We checked the phone book for the address of the Dream Palace Dance Hall. It was on the 2nd floor of a large building at the corner of 7th and Margot Streets. On the front of the building were several faded photographs of contest winners with the cups that they'd won and the name of the proprietor, Ernest Lasnik. We went upstairs. It was a large barn-like room with crepe paper birds hanging over the lights. In the rear of the place, at one of the tables, we found Lasnik. He was just eating his lunch.
Mr. Lasnik?
Yeah? What do you want?
I'd like to ask you some questions. We're police officers. My name's Smith. My partner, Sergeant Friday.
Hi.
How are you?
Don't shake hands. Got butter all over them. Sit down.
Thank you.
Care for a sandwich?
No, thank you.
No, you do go right ahead. There's all the makings, bread, butter, salami, pickles. Help yourself.
No, thanks, Mr. Lasnik.
You don't mind if I go ahead, huh? Bunch of kids coming in at 3:30. I'd like to get the place cleaned up before they get here.
No, sir, you go right ahead.
All right. What do you want to see me about?
It's about one of your employees, sir.
Yeah? Which one?
Girl named Harriet Shipley.
Oh, yeah, I remember. She don't work here anymore.
She doesn't work here anymore?
No.
Got any idea where she is?
No, got the slightest. I ain't seen Nadine in about maybe 6 months.
No, sir, you don't understand. We're inquiring about a Harriet Shipley.
Yeah, I know. I told you. I ain't seen her in 6 months.
What's this about Nadine?
That's her club name.
Oh.
See, lots of girls don't like to use their real names. In case a fellow wants to get chummy away from here, it's easier if we don't know the girl's real name. Harriet used Nadine.
I understand.
You know, we got a bunch of them. When one of the girls leaves, we put the name back in a hat. New girl picks it. Had 14 Nadine since we opened. 27 Altheas.
Yes, sir. Do you have any idea where the Shipley girl is?
No. Might check her husband. He might know.
We understand he was in the Army.
Yeah, that's right. He is. Overseas. He should know where his wife is. I'll ask him.
Well, we'll probably do that, sir. We thought maybe we could turn her up ourselves. There's been a missing report filed on her.
Missing, huh? Who told it?
Sir?
Who told about her being missing?
The report was filed by her mother-in-law.
Well, I wish I could help you fellas out.
The last time you saw the Shipley girl, she say anything about leaving town?
No. Wouldn't be surprised, though.
Why do you say that?
Well, poor kid was scared to death. Told me she wanted to get away.
Do you know what she was frightened about?
Yeah, Cliff Bender. That's what she was afraid of, Cliff.
Well, who's he?
Well, look, I'll tell you the whole thing. Be easier that way. One favor I got to ask you.
Yes, sir?
You won't tell Cliff I told you. If you come up here, he could tear the place apart easy. You got to promise me you won't tell him.
All right, sir. You go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Nadine, Harriet, well, she came to work for me about 1.5 years ago. Came in and told me she'd had some experience in a dance place in the Midwest. I don't remember the name right off. Probably come to me.
Yes, sir.
Well, I told her I'd try her, sort of probation.
Yes, sir.
Well, it worked out fine. End of the week, I put her on permanent. She did real well. A lot of guys got to come in just to dance with her. Wouldn't have nobody else, just Nadine. Harriet. Well, that's how she met Cliff. He come in one night, fell for it, and they started to go together. I told him I didn't like the idea of girls going out with the customers. Not good business. Didn't make any difference to them, though. They kept right on seeing each other.
That's this Bender fella.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one night the soldier come in. He was took right away with Nadine. Asked her for a dance. Kept buying tickets all night so he could dance with her. Come back the next night. Same thing. All night long he danced with Nadine.
That's Harriet.
Yeah, that's right. Called her Nadine. I told you about it.
Yes, sir.
Made Cliff plenty sore, but there wasn't anything he could do about it. She wanted to be with a soldier. It wasn't too long before she told him he was going to get married. Well, word got around about that. Really made Cliff hacked. Real hacked.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, him and the soldier, Shipley, had a fight downstairs one night after we closed. Guess Cliff waited for him and Nadine to come down. Anyway, it was a real brawl. Cops and everything. Cliff really cleaned up on the soldier. Didn't do any good, though.
What do you mean?
Nadine told Cliff to stay away from her. Keep far away. Told him that her and the soldier was going to get married and that they were through. She meant Cliff and her. Well, the soldier and Nadine got married a couple of days later, and she quit her job. Right after that, I heard he went overseas, and Cliff was around trying to break things up. Didn't do no good, though. Nadine loved the soldier, and she planned to stay with him.
Yes, sir.
Well, I tried to talk to Cliff, tell him to stay out of it. Leave the girl alone.
What was that?
I told him to leave the girl alone,
I see.
Didn't do any good. He was sure hacked. He said that she was his girl. Might take some time, but he'd get her for running out on her. I figure he told her that, too. That's what she was afraid of. Don't blame her. Cliff told me that, I'd believe him.
What's that, sir?
That he was going to kill her.
12:26 p.m. After we'd gotten the names and addresses of the employees of the Dream Palace who knew the missing girl, Frank and I went back to the office. We had the names checked through the record bureau, but we found that only one of the 14 people on the list had arrest records. That one was a Cliff Bender, who had been picked up on a charge of suspicion of burglary. However, according to the information on the report, he'd been released because of lack of evidence. We checked the log about the fight Lasnik had mentioned. We found that an FI card had been filed, but that no arrest had been made. We went over to room 45, and we talked with Sergeant Eggenweiler and Sergeant Rubles, the officers who'd handled the burglary case. They told us that in their contacts with Bender, he was sullen and uncooperative. They told us that he'd been seen in the company of known criminals. They also told us that in their opinion, they considered the man dangerous. We checked his last known address, but we found that he'd moved in July, leaving no forwarding address. While Frank and I checked out the rest of the missing girl's friends and acquaintances, Sergeant Graham and Cliff Bailey tried to check on Bender. We talked to everybody on the list we'd gotten from Ernest Lasnik, but none of them could give us any idea where we might find the Shipley girl. Most of them, however, told us about the threat that Bender had made against her life and expressed the opinion that he was responsible for her disappearance. The next day, Wednesday, August 13th, Frank and I went by communications, then we checked back into the office.
I tell you the mother-in-law of that missing girl called again this morning?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, she wanted to know how we were doing, what progress we've been able to make.
Well, what'd you tell her?
Well, I filled her in on what we found. I didn't tell her about Bender, though, just that we thought we'd be able to find the girl.
Mm-hmm.
You talked to her when she made the original report, didn't you, Joe?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Well, how do you mean?
Well, isn't there something there that's a little off base to you?
I don't know what you're trying to get at.
Well, it just seems to me that she doesn't care if we find her daughter-in-law or not. All she cares about is the kid.
Well, yeah, I kind of got that idea myself. The way she talked, doesn't seem that she and the girl got along too well, does it?
No. It just seems like there's something she isn't telling us. I don't know what it is. I asked her this morning if she'd heard from her son, if he knew anything about where his wife might be.
What'd you say to that?
Well, she told me she didn't want to bother him, make him worry. Wouldn't even tell me his mailing address. Said she didn't want him alarmed unless there was a reason.
No, the way I see it, his wife being gone is reason enough.
Yeah, that's the way it seems to me, and I told her that. She said our job was just to find the girl and the baby, and that's all.
Cooperation like that isn't going to make it any easier, is it? We can only do so much if she isn't going to help us.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Her filing the report and then holding out information.
I may better get over and talk to her again. See if we can get the whole story. How about Graham and Bailey? You heard from them?
No, there's a note in the book. They got a lead on Bender. Graham said they were going to run it down for us this morning.
Uh-huh. What time you got now?
9:43.
I want to talk to the skipper. Make arrangements to put a picture of the Shipley girl on suspects wanted this afternoon. Might be able to turn something, huh?
Sure, a lot of loose ends.
I get it. Missing persons Friday. Yeah, Graham. Mm-hmm. Where? What'd she say? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's about the same. What? Yeah. Well, you want to call the crime line? Right. No, we'll meet you out there right away. Right, bye. Only found where Bender was living.
What do you mean was?
Checked out last June, about the same time the Shipley girl disappeared. Landlady hasn't seen him since. Guys came up with something else.
Yeah.
A couple of shirts for a baby.
Uh-huh.
Bloodstains all over him. "10:02 a.m. We got to the apartment where Bender had been living. The crew from the crime lab were there, and they were photographing the room and the clothing that had been found. Sergeant J. Allen told us that he'd have to run a precipitate test on the stains before he could tell whether or not they were of human origin. 10:45 a.m. They finished their investigation on the scene, and they went back to Central Station to compile the results. Frank called the office, and a local and an APB were put out on Cliff Bender, asking that he be picked up as a possible suspect. We also had his card flagged in the record bureau. We talked to the landlady of the apartment building, and she told us that Bender had left his apartment hurriedly one night about the middle of June. She was unable to tell us the exact date, but she did go on to say that she'd been getting a check for the rent each month. We asked her if she could show us either one of the checks or an envelope that had come in. She explained that she had thrown the envelopes away and had cashed the checks. She was unable to tell us where they'd been mailed from. She said that as far as she knew, she'd never seen the Shipley girl in Bender's apartment. We asked her to notify us immediately in the event that the suspect returned. We put in a call to the bank where the rent checks were cashed, and we asked that they give us the information on them. 1:30 p.m. Frank and I went over to the crime lab, and we talked to Jay Allen. He told us that the stains on the baby clothes were human blood. He showed us the photographs taken, but there was nothing in them that would give us any lead as to either the girl's or Bender's whereabouts. That afternoon, the picture of Harriet Shipley was telecast over the police program. We got several calls from citizens who said that they'd seen the girl. We checked them all out. One of the callers, a bus driver, told us that he'd seen the girl and the baby on his bus during the month of June, and that she'd gotten off in San Diego. We alerted the police in that city to look for her. Thursday morning, Frank and I checked into the office. You want to check the book, Frank, see if there's anything from San Diego?
Right.
I got it. Missing persons, Friday. Yes, that's right. Yes, we did. Uh-huh. Where? You sure about that? Right away. Mm-hmm. Frank, get your coat.
What do you got?
Shipley girl. They found her.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet the Tom Harmons. You know Tom is an All-American, and now a top sports announcer. Mrs. Harmon is the motion picture and television star Elise Knox. They're typical of people everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me.
I like regular-sized Chesterfields. Have for years. They're best for me, at least I think so.
Because of that Chesterfield quality.
That's the way I feel about them, too. I've always smoked Chesterfields. Now I go for the king size. Guess I like a longer smoke. So whether you smoke regular size like Elise Knox or king size like Tom Harmon, enjoy America's most popular two-way cigarette. Chesterfield's for me. You hear it everywhere. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want, the mildness you want, join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
The call had come from a nurse at the State Mental Hospital in Camarillo. She told me that they had a patient who resembled the photograph of the missing girl as televised on our police program. Frank and I left the office and drove out to the hospital. We talked to the nurse and to the doctor who was taking care of the sick girl. From personal effects and the scars on her wrists, we were reasonably sure of the identification. The doctor told us that the girl had been committed on July 17th by her sister under the name Harriet Lavin. He told us that the girl was undergoing treatment, but that there was little hope for a complete recovery and that it would be some time before she could be permitted to leave the violent ward. We tried to talk to her, but we were unable to get any coherent answers. We asked about the baby, but the authorities were unable to give us any information. We got the name and address of the sister who'd committed the Shipley girl, and we drove down to San Diego to talk to her. It was a small place in a wartime housing development. The paint was peeling off the plyboard walls, and the front yard was overgrown with weeds. The woman who answered the door identified herself as Pauline Lavin.
Sure, what do you want to know? Don't make no difference now. You go back and tell her it's too late. Way too late.
Tell who, ma'am?
Mrs. Shipley, Harriet's mother-in-law. You go back and tell her she done it good. There ain't nothing left to do to Harriet. It's all been done. You can tell her that.
Well, we don't work for Miss Shipley, ma'am. We're trying to find out what happened to your sister and the baby.
Who asked you to find out in the first place? It was her, wasn't it? Wasn't she the one?
She filed a report.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, you go back and tell her there's nothing more she can do to Harriet or the baby or Big Jerry. Nothing at all she can do.
Where is the baby, ma'am?
He's not here.
Do you know where he is?
Yes, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell anybody. I promised Harriet I wouldn't tell, and I'm going to keep the promise.
Miss Lavin, we don't want to hurt your sister. We're just trying to get to the truth. Now, maybe you better tell us what you know.
You ain't doing this for old Miss Shipley?
No, ma'am.
All right, then. I'll tell you, but not for her. I wouldn't give her the right time of day. She's the one that did it, the whole thing. You can lay it right at her feet.
All right, you want to tell us about it?
Since they got married, she's given the kids trouble. Right from the first she heard about it. Said that Harriet wasn't good enough for her son. Said Harriet was cheap. Didn't make any difference to the kids. They got married anyway. They were in love, so they got married.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as Big Jerry went overseas, she started on Harriet to get an annulment. All the time writing her letters telling her how cheap she was. That if she really loved Jerry, she'd get an annulment. And she found out about the baby, so she started saying how they should get a divorce.
Does Harriet's husband know about this, would you know?
Sure. All along he knew it. He didn't like it. Told his mother to stay out of their lives. Kept telling her, but it didn't do any good. None. Then Harriet got the wire. The one that told about Big Jerry being dead. Almost killed her. I thought it was going to. They was really in love. It isn't often you see something like them two. Real love. The kind you live, not the kind you talk about.
Mm-hmm.
One night, right after she got the wire, she got a phone call from San Francisco. From old Miss Shipley. She told Harriet that she was going to the court to take the baby away from her. Said she could prove Harriet wasn't a good mother and she didn't deserve to have the baby.
Was Harriet living here at the time?
No. Well, she'd come down every weekend, but she wasn't living here. There was a guy up in L.A. that was giving her trouble. A fellow named Bender, I think. He was with her when she tried to kill herself. He ran out so he wouldn't get mixed up in it. He was always giving Harriet trouble, so she left one night to get away from him and old Mrs. Shipley. She came down here and said that she just wanted to be left alone with her baby. That's not a lot to ask, is it? Just to be left alone?
No, ma'am.
It was for old Mrs. Shipley. She just wouldn't let Harriet alone. Kept after her saying how she was going to take away the baby. How Harriet was an unfit mother. Kind of got in her mind. Finally, there wasn't much else she was thinking about but how to keep her baby. She went out walking one night. Took the baby with her. Rained. Rained real hard. I guess the baby took cold. Anyway, the next day he came down with a bad fever. A couple of days later, he was dead. Not even a year old, and he was dead.
Mm-hmm. You want to go on?
Harriet sat around for a week. Didn't say anything. Didn't do nothing, just stare at the wall. Didn't even cry. Just sat and looked at the wall. And all of a sudden, she just fell apart. I called the doctor. said it was a breakdown and said I should have her committed. I signed the papers, and that's where she is. I went up to see her. She didn't even know me. I'm her sister, and she didn't even know me. So you just tell Miss Shipley how she did good. You just tell her what she did to my sister. Tell her how the baby's dead, and she's finally got what she wanted, because now Harriet hasn't got the baby. Nobody's got him. Nobody's got him. Nobody.
Come on, Frank.
Yeah. Where to?
Well, we better get back to town.
Guess so.
See Miss Shipley. We got back to Los Angeles at 9:30 p.m. We went directly to the hotel where Mrs. Shipley was staying. The desk clerk told us that she'd left word that she was not to be disturbed. He called the room, and she asked that we come up. We took the elevator to the 7th floor, and we walked down the hall.
Good evening, Sergeant Friday. Officer Smith, come in.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're just having a drink. May I fix you one?
No, thank you.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
No, thank you.
You don't mind if I go ahead?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Just sit down, and I'll be right with you.
Thank you.
Desk clerk said it was important.
Yes, ma'am.
You found my daughter-in-law?
Yes, ma'am.
And the baby? Where is he? Is he still with her?
No, ma'am, he's not.
Where is he?
Your daughter-in-law's pretty sick, Miss Shipley.
Oh?
Yes, ma'am. She's in the state hospital up at Camarillo.
Camarillo?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a mental hospital, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about Harriet, but I knew she wasn't very stable.
Why didn't you tell us your son was dead, Mrs. Shipley?
I didn't think it had any bearing on the thing. What difference does it make?
You don't seem to be very interested in his wife.
I'm going to be honest with you, Sergeant. I'm not. Not in the least interested in what she does or where she is. I never did feel she was the right girl for my son, never. When the baby was born, I tried to go along with it. I tried to be nice to her, and she wouldn't have it. She wouldn't even be friendly. She poisoned my son, turned him against me. She's a terrible woman. Just terrible. Whatever's happened to her is just exactly what she's got coming. Naturally, I'm sorry it's the way it is, but there's nothing I can do. All I'm interested in right now is my grandchild. I want him. And if I have to go to court to get him, then I'll do it that way.
That won't be necessary, ma'am.
Where is he? I'd like to go and get him now that Jerry's wife can't take care of him.
He's dead, ma'am.
If this is some kind of a joke that you're making up to help my daughter-in-law keep him, it won't work.
It's no joke. It's the truth. He died in a hospital in San Diego.
It's not right. It's not right that he's dead. She did this. Harriet. She did it to get even with me. I know she did.
We're sorry, Miss Shipley.
First my husband, then Jerry. I haven't got anybody. I'm all by myself. There isn't anybody in the world who cares. Nobody.
No, we're sorry, Miss Shipley. I wish there was something we could do.
No, you're not. You're like the rest of them. But it's Harriet. She's the one. Nobody else to consider in this mess. Just her.
What about the baby?
The story you've just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On Thursday, August 14th, a meeting was held in the office of the Captain of Homicide, Los Angeles Police Department. In a moment, the results of that meeting.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. You know, the Chesterfield you smoked today is the best cigarette ever made, and best for you. Now, that's a fact. And to my way of thinking, it's the very reason for you to change to Chesterfield. Try 'em either way, regular or king size. If you try 'em, I think you'll say with all of us, Chesterfield's for me.
At the meeting held in Captain Lorman's office, it was decided that no criminal act had taken place, and the case was officially marked closed. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Herb Bygren, Carolyn Jones. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters, the one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste, much more flavor, much less nicotine, the right length for effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product, alpha cellulose, the purest material for filtering cigarette smoke. Yes, this is it. As Rosalind Russell puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of Some Enchanted Carhop.
It was just an ordinary drive-in hamburger joint on Vermont off Sunset, but they called it Hamburger Heaven. And just to carry out the idea, they'd hired 6 angels to wait on cars. 3 blondes, a redhead, and 2 brunettes. I was lucky. I drew the redhead. Only she didn't serve up what I ordered. All she brought me was trouble. The whole thing started when there were only 8 more shopping days until Christmas. I fought my way through the necktie and sock set, and by the time I reached the office, I was ready to start celebrating New Year's. But my boss, the Lion, had other ideas. When I walked in, all 280 pounds of him was up on an office stool. He was tacking a dried-up sprig of mistletoe over the door.
Jeffrey, my boy, come in. The festive season is at hand.
How's that again?
I said the festive season is at hand. I'm filled overflowing with the Yuletide spirit.
Yeah? Well, you better take those nails out of your teeth before you spring a leak.
Oh, yes. Yeah, guess you're right, my boy. I got carried away.
Yeah, sure. You and Tiny Tim. We're expecting women clients?
Women clients? Oh, you mean the mistletoe. Well, Jeffrey, you never can tell when a sweet young thing might accidentally happen in.
Stop drooling, Fatso. You dropped out of a mistletoe set 50 pounds ago.
Well, maybe so, but I still believe in Santa Claus. Now, where was I?
You were up on the stool with berries in your hair.
No, I mean about the new client. What have I told you so far?
That the festive season is at hand?
Huh? Oh, then I haven't told you about our new client. His name is Ward Hamilton, Jeffrey. He was in just a few minutes ago. Fine figure of a man. Well-dressed, distinguished, and prosperous.
That explains the Christmas spirit. How much?
Jeffrey, the Christmas spirit cannot be measured in terms of money. This is the time of goodwill toward men of unselfish devotion.
Sure. How much unselfish devotion did he buy?
$50 worth. It's something about his niece or daughter or some friend or something.
What about them?
Well, it seems this girl's been receiving packages, flowers, candy, that sort of thing.
Well, what's so mysterious about that? Doesn't she know it's Christmas?
Well, for some reason or other, Ward Hamilton says she's worried about them. He'll tell you all about it when you see him. The address is on the desk. It's out on Iredell Road in North Hollywood.
So I find the Santa Claus that's been sending the packages.
Say, that's right. This case does fit right in with the season, doesn't it?
Sure. And Merry Christmas to you, too, Fatso. That started it. I hopped in my sleigh and headed my reindeer out over Cahuenga Pass. Iredell Road was twin rows of California bungalows with Christmas decorations strung out in front. All except one house. It was the address Lion had given me. Redwood front on the usual cream-colored stucco. White ranch-type fence, swimming pool in the backyard. No Christmas anywhere. Behind the fence, a big Dalmatian wagged his tail and grinned at me in a nice, friendly sort of way. Only he was growling when he did it. I circled wide and made the porch, but I didn't get as far as the doorbell.
What do you want?
Mr. Hamilton? I'm Regan, International.
Regan? Oh, yes, the detective. Come in, Mr. Regan, come in.
He was big and gray-haired, the man of distinction. But what he had in his hand wasn't a glass. It was a whip, black, 10 feet long, with lead weights at the tip.
In here. I appreciate your coming right out, Mr. Regan. I like to get prompt action.
Is that what you used that for?
Well, the whip. No, just a hobby of mine. I practice hitting toy ducks floating in the swimming pool.
Oh, nice way to get use out of your pool during the winter season.
Well, yes. Never mind that. Sit down, Mr. Regan. I want to tell you about Mary.
That's the niece.
Niece? No. No relation. I'm a close friend of her family's. Her parents died several years ago. There was no one else, so I've tried to take over the reins and help the girl along. It hasn't been easy.
She isn't broken to harness.
It's a nice metaphor, but it doesn't fit. Not at all. Mary Winter is a strange girl. Very strange.
She's the shy, retiring type.
Ah, I see. The detective training. You're thinking ahead, assuming that she's not attractive to men. Nothing could be further from the truth. She's a lovely girl. Very lovely. Auburn hair, green eyes, fine, firm, youthful figure. Desirable is the word, Mr. Regan. Desirable. You understand what I mean?
You make it pretty clear. So, that brings us to the anonymous packages.
For almost 6 weeks, someone has been sending Mary gifts. Almost every day. Flowers, candy, novelties, that sort of thing. No name, no indication where they come from.
Mary has no idea either?
No. But she's reacted to them badly. They're making her nervous, upset. There's something I can't afford to have happen.
Come again?
Mr. Regan, I can observe that there's little use in trying to keep anything back from you. My interest in the package matter is because of money.
Now the story begins to make sense.
Mary is strange. Perhaps I should have said peculiar. Her aversion to men is almost, well, I've been sending her to a Mr. Farthing, a human relations counselor.
A psychologist?
Something like that.
And it costs money?
Yes, it costs money. The more delay in cure, the more it costs. Frankly, Mr. Regan, I'm tired of the obligation.
She work?
Yes. She works at one of those drive-in stands, Carhop.
Something wrong with that?
The place is called Hamburger Heaven, Mr. Regan.
And you want me to find the guy who sends the packages so he'll marry her, or so you can get rid of him?
It works the same either way. You'll take the job, Mr. Regan?
Sure. I'll find your guy. Maybe he'll look good under your Christmas tree. Ward Hamilton gave me the girl's address in Hollywood. It was a tired stucco 4-flat just off Kingsley, the home of Mary Winter, the girl who hated men. And then it was too easy. Standing out front near the curb was a little man in a trench coat. He carried an umbrella over his arm, and he paced up and down, watching the apartment. That was too good a bet to pass up. You going somewhere?
I beg your pardon?
Someone you know lives in there?
Why, that's none of your business, sir.
The name of the friend wouldn't be Mary Winter.
Get out of my way.
That's what I thought. Hold it.
Let go of my arm. Let go, I say.
Why are you watching Mary Winter's apartment?
I warned you. Let go. Let
Answer
go.
me.
Very well. I'll answer you.
The umbrella in his hand came down on my wrist, and he broke for the corner. By the time I turned, he was out of sight. On the ground, broken, was the little man's umbrella. I picked it up. Real break. Name engraved on the handle. In nice big gold letters, it said, Smith. I headed for Mary Winter's apartment. I knocked, and nothing happened. Knocked again. The radio in the room told me somebody was in and liked their music loud. I tried the door, and it worked. I stuck my head in to look around. A redhead came in from another room, in slacks and halter. She saw me. she dived for the closet and came out wearing her coat. Then she snapped off the radio.
Get out of here!
Look, I tried knocking, but...
Get out before I call the police!
The name's Regan. Ward Hamilton sent me.
You're lying. You're trying to trick me.
Phone him. He'll tell you.
What do you want?
About the presents you've been getting. Tell me.
I'm not sure. I can't trust you.
Look, for the last time, I'm supposed to find out who's sending them. Either you help or you don't. Now, take your choice.
All right. I'll listen. But don't you come a step closer.
I sat down. One corner of the room. Redhead, other corner. She was tall, graceful, beautiful. Everything a guy could want. Except for the look in her eyes. Scared, hunted. I waited for her to start it.
They began several weeks ago. The presents. I don't know who is sending them or why, but
Any card? Identification?
No, nothing.
You sure?
You think I'd accept gifts from a stranger?
Take it easy. Nobody said that. What did Farthing tell you?
Farthing?
The Human Relations Counselor you go to.
Oh, you know about that?
Yeah, I know about that. What did he say?
That I shouldn't worry. That I should find out.
That all?
Oh, you don't understand. You're like all of them. Get out of here.
One question. Do you know a little guy about 30 carries an umbrella, wears a trench coat, shy?
No.
Are you sure? Think. A little guy.
No, I don't know him. I've never met him in my life. Get out!
I left the redhead sobbing softly to herself. Maybe a lot of flowers and candy would be kind of nice to a lot of people during Christmas, but not to Mary Winter. She was mixed up, inside and out. I headed back to my car, and then I was mixed up. It had looked easy until I got to my car. That's when I got complications. A big complication. Fat, 40, with a gun.
Get in, Shamus.
Now what?
Your choice, Shamus.
Like what?
The Winter Dame,
Your property?
Not my type.
Belong to the boss?
Question, Shamus,
Beat it, will you?
I'm not through with you.
Okay, get through.
Stay away from Mary Winter or you get trouble. Real bad trouble. Any questions now, Shamus?
Yeah. Who pays you?
You shouldn't have asked that question.
It looked like it was going to be a real holiday season. Brotherly love all over the place. The next stop was a man named Mr. Farthing. Only the sign on the door said John J. Farthing, Human Relations Counselor. It was a plush layout. Waiting room the size of a box top. Rich, solid, lined with deep green leather chairs, brass studs. On the wall, Van Gogh, Gauguin, that kind of stuff. The receptionist was out, and I took a crack at the thick mahogany door.
Yes, come in, please. What may I do for you, sir?
The name's Regan, international detective.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Regan. Now, is something troubling you?
Girl named Winter, Mary Winter.
Go on, Mr. Regan.
She's a patient of yours?
Why do you ask?
A couple of questions about her.
I see.
Since you know her background, I thought you could fill me in on a few things. I said...
I heard you, Mr. Regan.
Well?
Perhaps, sir, you're aware of the nature of my work. Since I assume you're an intelligent man, I don't believe it's necessary to be much more explicit than that.
Try it for size.
Very well. Cigarette, Mr. Regan?
Thanks.
There is in existence a code of ethics. Some practitioners call it the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not a doctor, as you know, yet I, too, Mr. Regan, have a moral code.
I'm listening.
Nothing in my code, either morally, ethically, or in any other way, allows me to discuss the affairs of my patients. Is that clear?
Yeah. That's clear.
I'm sorry I can't assist you in whatever it is you're trying to do, Mr. Regan. I'd like to help, but as you see, my hands are tied.
That makes two of us. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Mr. Farthing, gray suit, ivory cigarette holder, and gold cufflinks, stood up and shook hands solemnly. I left. He'd given me nothing. And there was only one thing wrong with that. Mr. Farthing was right. I decided to check in with my boss, Anthony J. Lyon.
The International Detective Agency, Anthony.
Save it for the customers, Fatso.
Jeffrey, where have you been?
Look, I just started this business 2 hours ago. What's eating you?
Just this. I have here in my office with me a young man. He has an interesting story, Jeffrey. It seems he's been sending gifts to one Mary Winter.
What?
That's correct, Regan, the man you're supposed to be looking for. Well, don't just stand there. Get over here at once. This young man can't wait all day for lazy detectives. And besides, he needs help.
He needs help.
Yeah, that's right, Jeffrey. The man you were supposed to find. His life's in danger.
This is CBS, and you're listening to Jeff Regan, Investigator, and tonight's adventure, Some Enchanted Carhop. It started when a guy named Ward Hamilton hired the Lion and me to find out who was sending packages to a Carhop named Mary Winter. I met a little guy with an umbrella and a big guy with a gun, and a human relations counselor who called himself Mr. Farthing. Then I phoned my boss, Anthony J. Lyon, and found the mysterious Santa Claus who'd been sending the girl gifts had walked right into our office. When I got there, I found the Lion sitting with his fingertips touching as he talked to the man across the desk from him. Like I guessed, it was the same guy I'd seen outside Mary Winter's apartment. The little guy, 30, trench coat, and nervous.
Jeffrey, come in. I want you to meet our new client, Mr. Smith. Mr. Ernest Smith. He's in trouble.
Well, if he isn't, he should be.
Jeffrey, what on earth do you mean?
I found your Mr. Smith outside the girl's apartment. He wasn't looking for frost on those windows.
Oh, no, Mr. Regan. That's...
What Mr. Smith is trying to say, Jeffrey, is that that's not true. Mr. Smith is in real trouble.
You sell it to him?
Jeffrey, how can you say such a thing? Mr. Smith feels his life is in danger, hence he has retained us to act in his behalf.
That's true, Mr. Regan. I'll admit I sent the gifts to Miss Winter. I didn't realize, I didn't know...
Get to the point.
Now I'm afraid. Since I saw you this afternoon, someone's following me.
Fat guy, big coat.
Yes. I came here for help. Someone doesn't like my sending the gifts.
Well, that's real bright. Well, you can start with Mary Winter.
She doesn't like them, Mr. Regan?
Then there's a guy named Hamilton.
She's married?
We call him a guardian, family friend.
Oh.
Finish your story.
I like Miss Winter. I wanted to do something for her.
So you've been sending her anonymous presents for almost 6 weeks. Isn't that carrying the Christmas spirit too far?
Well, I like her. That's not abnormal, is it, Mr. Regan?
Yeah, of course not, Mr. Smith.
You keep out of this, Fatso.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, our client...
We got another client named Hamilton, remember? Besides, you haven't met the girl.
Neither have I.
What?
I've never met Mary Winter. Is that abnormal, Mr. Regan? Oh, dear. Dear, perhaps I'm sicker than Mr. Farthing told me.
Say that again?
Mr. Farthing, my human relations counselor, he takes care of me.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is going to add up. You've never met Mary Winter?
No.
No, but you've seen her. You've seen her in the waiting room of Farthing's office.
Why, Mr. Regan, how on earth did you guess? That's exactly it. She was reading a copy of Reader's Digest, and I was reading an old National Geographic. It was a fall...
Never mind. Well, Lion, I think that wraps that up.
Jeffrey, what do you mean?
Mary Winter is afraid of unknown guy sending packages. Unknown guy turns out to be Smith. Take Smith to Mary, show her he's harmless. Collect our fee.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, what about Mr. Smith? What about the man who's following him?
Maybe he just imagined it. Come on, Smith. We're going to visit a redhead. The Lion didn't believe Smith imagined it any more than I did. But he only sputtered, and I loaded Smith into the car and headed out to Mary Winter's apartment. It looked simple, then, like a glass of mild eggnog. What I didn't know was that somebody had slipped me a zombie. It was turning dark when we pulled up in front of the place. Smith stayed at my heels like a sheepdog. I knocked. This time she opened the door.
Oh, Mr. Regan, what are you doing here?
Brought your Christmas present. Only this one's harmless.
Oh, no.
Take it
No.
easy, sweetheart. Just a guy named Smith. You might even like him.
No, please go away. Please go away.
Smith and I walked on in, and Mary backed into a chair in the far corner of the room. She and Smith looked at each other and didn't say anything, so I waited for the sparks to die out of her eyes. But they didn't. There was something else on her mind.
This is the man who sent the packages.
You guessed it. Smith, Mary Winter. Mary Winter, Smith.
Get him out of here.
Huh?
I said get him out of here before he kills me.
Oh, no.
Sit down. Now, just a minute, lady. He won't hurt anybody. Just take it easy, will you? Just take quiet.
That's what you're
Oh, no, I
Now,
didn't
listen,
hurt
sweetheart. Wait a minute. It's Christmas. You've heard of that, I think, haven't you? People send presents to each other because it makes them feel good. Now, Smith sent you presents for the same reason.
He's going to kill me. You're like he is, trying to trap me.
Oh, that does it.
All right. Look at this.
What, a card?
It came in a box of flowers. Was delivered here to my apartment tonight.
Each man kills the thing he loves.
Well, Regan, try and explain that. Try and
Shut
prove
up.
it.
Did you send this, Smith?
No, Mr. Regan. I didn't send it. I sent flowers and candy and nice things.
Mr. Regan, at the window!
I left them with their mouths open and ran for the hall, and then outside. The girl may have had an overworked imagination, but her mind didn't knock over that garbage can. It was dark and peaceful and still outside. Me and a half moon and nobody else. And then I saw him, thick-set, crouched, moving away from the window. I dove after him. We went down together as his hand came out of his pocket. The heavy gray .45 got itself in my direction, and I grabbed at the wrist behind him. The gun fell into the rose bush, but he got to his feet.
I warned you once, Shamus. Stay away from that girl. Who said so? Never mind that now. Get off the case now, before it's too late. It'll only mean go.
Were you going to say trouble? The big guy was 200 pounds of unconscious as I bent over him. A heavy camel hair coat was wrapped around him. The same guy I'd seen before. I unbuttoned the coat figuring some identification might help, only when it came open, I didn't need any more. He was wearing a tailored starched jacket. It wasn't the kind you see every day. It was white. That gave me the lead I needed, and I headed fast for my car. 10 minutes later, I stopped at the drugstore on my way out to the valley. I phoned the Lion and told him to check on Farthing. Then I headed the car out Cahuenga. The pass was crowded with home-from-work traffic. It took me 25 minutes to make Iredell Road and the home of Ward Hamilton. This time the Dalmatian was out for the night. But Ward Hamilton wasn't. He opened the door.
Well, Mr. Regan, come in. You work late.
Our time clock's out of order.
Oh, perhaps you'd like one for Christmas.
No, thanks. Wouldn't fit in my sock.
Well, Mr. Regan, I take it by this visit that you have good news for me.
Call it that.
You know who's been sending the girl those gifts?
A guy named Smith.
How's that again?
Smith, Ernest Smith. His birth certificate says.
I'm afraid I've never heard of him, Mr. Regan.
He saw Mary in the waiting room of Farthing's office. Never met her. Shy little guy.
Well, now isn't that something? Well, I must say, Mr. Regan, you did a remarkably fast job.
There's something else you ought to know, Hamilton. Chances are Farthing's a phony.
Mr. Farthing?
Looks like.
Why, it seems absurd.
Just thought I'd let you know. Want me to go on with the case?
What do you mean, Mr. Regan?
I found your guy, Smith. That's what you hired me for. And when I get to Farthing, he'll sing like a prima donna.
Sing?
Talk.
Well, then keep going.
Okay, Hamilton. It's your money.
It's your life, Mr. Regan. Be careful.
I made a fast phone call to the Lion on my way back into town, and that tied it up. Farthing was working late when I got there, only when he looked up and saw me, he wasn't happy.
What do you want?
Conversation, a lot of it.
Mr. Regan, I must ask why you've come to my office at this hour.
I told you, for conversation.
Then I may regard this whole thing as a sort of joke?
Maybe. Only the laughs you'll get wouldn't get by even on television.
I demand an explanation of your attitude.
Fair enough. Start with your name. Not Farthing, it's Farnham, Howard Farnham. You want more?
Where did you get that?
I had a phone conversation with my boss. He's got ways of getting things. Like your record. 5 arrest bunco, 1 arrest forgery, 1 arrest fraud.
No conviction.
You were lucky. Maybe you won't be this time.
You haven't got anything on me, Regan?
How about blackmail?
Not a chance.
Maybe not yet. Only you were getting set for a job. I believe the guy's name was Hamilton.
You can't prove it.
Well, it was your mug, the big guy in the white jacket. He meant business. Does he do your legwork?
Listen, Regan, you can't pin blackmail on me. Sure, maybe I had ideas, but I don't claim I'm a doctor. I don't hand out any pills. Just advice, Regan. That's all. Just advice.
That's too bad. You know, there are a lot of people that take phonies like you seriously, Farnham. A lot of people that could use advice. Real advice.
Mine's real. They say, should I marry him? And I say yes or no, depending...
On how much there is in it for you.
What do you want from me, Regan?
Who paid you to put the B on Mary Winter?
Never mind, Farthing. You won't have to answer that.
Come on in, Hamilton. I've been waiting for you.
You're bragging, Mr. Regan.
It made sense if I could get you to join Farthing and me. You might have something to say. You're showing up. Check my story.
What story?
Like this. Man named Hamilton's supposed to look out for a young redhead named Mary Winter. Only Hamilton takes one look at this number, and suddenly he's not fatherly anymore. He decides to move in for himself.
It's absurd.
Is it? You convinced the girl she couldn't trust any man in the world but you. Should have been the other way around. You're the one she couldn't trust. Isn't that right, Farthing?
Leave me out of this, Regan. I run a legitimate business.
Leave you out? Well, that wouldn't be fair. You were the guy Hamilton came to with money. He paid you to tell Mary Winter who was the man for her. Am I right, Farthing?
You're lying, Regan.
No, I'm not. Everything worked fine until along came a nice, shy little guy with an umbrella, Mr. Smith. Met Mary in Farthing's waiting room, starting sending her presents. You know, that must have really stopped you, Hamilton, trying to figure out who was cutting in on your Romeo act.
Regan, I've had enough out of you. I thought you were getting nosy.
You hired me to find the guy, and I did. End of story. Except if anybody should happen to tell Mary Winter what kind of a guy you really are, Hamilton, you might suddenly find yourself out of a lifetime career.
You'll never tell her, Regan. I'll see to that.
Forget one item. For a last touch, you send Mary a threatening note. Really put the pressure on. You're washed up, Hamilton.
This revolver says I'm not, Mr. Regan. Well, then, come over here, out of the way. We're going to take care of Mr. Regan.
Self-defense, not a chance with Farthing's record. Am I right, Farnham?
Do as I say, Farthing.
Go ahead, Farnham, go ahead. Murder will look good on your list.
I won't play ball, Hamilton. I told the girl what you wanted, but I'm not in this. It's your fight.
I can make it yours.
Don't try it.
I am as good with this gun, gentlemen, as I am with a whip. Farnham, watch out.
Farnham ducked as I hit Hamilton's wrist. The bullet buried itself in the desk top, and the gun hit the floor. I got the gun as Hamilton moved in fast. Only what he got for his trouble was the barrel across his head. Farnham crawled up to his chair and sat down, puffing. I let him catch his breath. When I waved the gun in his direction, he didn't mind phoning the police. The heavy guy in the white jacket showed up bright and early for work the next morning, and the cop greeted him with a pair of handcuffs. He got off with assault and battery, and Farnham, alias Farthing, made the blotter for a light charge. Hamilton wasn't that lucky. His read assault with intent to kill. It was noon when I got to the Lion's office. He was admiring the Christmas tree stuck in the corner. And from the sounds that came out of his mouth, it looked like his holiday fever was becoming serious.
Nowhere. Born is the king of... hello, Jeffrey.
They're looking for a replacement for Vaughn Monroe?
Jeffrey, how unkind. It's the season for songs. Sunday is Christmas, my boy.
And today is payday.
So it is. Well, perhaps I could manage a small token, a sign of my gratitude.
Thanks.
Yeah, by the way, what about Mary Winter, the Carhop? How is the girl, Jeffrey?
Oh, I left her with Smith last night when I went after Farthing's mug.
Jeffrey, you didn't. Alone together? And that girl hating all men, and that boy shy, backwards? Jeffrey, how could you? How cruel.
It's too late now, Lion. Maybe we'll read about it in the afternoon paper.
Double murder.
Double hamburger.
What did you say?
I drove by Mary's drive-in this morning. There was a car parked there.
Jeffrey, you mean...
Little guy behind the wheel, trench coat, umbrella. He looked an awful lot like our boy Smith.
Then you talked to them?
For a minute.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, Jeffrey, tell me. What did Mary say?
She said, with or without onions. Merry Christmas, Lion.
Merry Christmas, Jeffrey.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by William Frug and William Fifield, produced by Sterling Tracy, directed by Gordon T. Hughes, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking and inviting you to be with us again next week at this same time for Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A howling dog causes a man to check his neighbor's house. He finds the brutally beaten body of an elderly woman. She's been killed by person or persons unknown. Your job? Investigate. Today, friends, you hear these three words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine, the taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it's tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield. Always say, Chesterfield's for me.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, June 10th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. I was on my way back in from the alley, and it was 7:26 p.m. when I got to 9782 Green Oak Drive. Front door.
You find anything?
No sign of anybody out back. Did you call the crime lab?
Yeah, I talked to Lee. He's on the way.
That's good.
Call Hollywood Division, too. They're going to send out some more men to help us.
Well, it's an outside chance we might come up with something.
Yeah. Whoever did it sure must have been wild, Joe. I don't think I ever saw a killing as brutal as this one.
It's pretty rough.
Must have hit her a couple of dozen times. Look at there.
Mm-hmm.
See? Wristwatch is broken. Looks like she might have raised her arm to try and stop some of the blows.
Yeah. Crystal smashed up pretty bad. It's hard to read.
Yeah.
Looks like 3:04, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
That must have been the time.
From what the neighbor says, that'd have to be this afternoon.
Yeah. Did you find anything that looks like a murder weapon?
Nothing out in the open. Thought it'd be better if the crime lab checked the place first.
How about the other rooms? Are they as bad as the one out front?
Yeah. Stuff's all scattered around, drawers pulled out, contents thrown all over. Whoever it was sure wanted us to think it was robbery.
Well, let's check the neighbor.
Yeah, he's across the street. Said he wanted to go home and take something to help quiet him down. Must have been quite a shock for the old guy.
Yeah. You want to tell Brian and Phillips where we'll be?
Yeah.
All right. Phillips is out in back. I saw him when I came in.
I'll talk to Brian.
All right. Ask him to let us know when Lee gets here, will you?
Yeah.
All right.
Come on in.
Thank you. Mr. Brody?
Yeah, over here. Want to turn the lights on? I was just sitting here having a drink, trying to calm down a little.
Yes, sir.
Switch is there on the wall, sort of behind the whatnot. You have to kind of feel around.
Yes, sir, I found it.
Turned out the lights to help my head. Oh, me, oh, my, I got an awful headache. You don't happen to have a couple of aspirin on you, do you?
No, sir, I'm sorry I don't.
Oh, well, I guess you don't mind much. I guess this will do just as good.
What if you tell me just what happened here?
Well, I'm glad to. I want to help all I can, sure. I'd like to see you get the guy who did this, Ethel.
Well, why do you think it was a man?
Huh?
Well, you said guy. What makes you think it was a man?
Well, I didn't mean it like, you know, not special, but come right down to it, almost got to be a man. You can't imagine no woman doing a thing like that. At least no woman I ever knew. It's got to be a man. Come on in. Everybody come in. Might as well have a convention, all the people coming in.
It's my partner, Mr. Brody.
Oh, another policeman, huh?
Yes, sir.
All set, Joe. They're going to call us when the crime lab crew gets here.
All right.
How are you, Mr. Brody?
People all over the place. I never saw a crowd come so fast as when the sirens come in. Seemed like they was attached to mushrooms, just sprung up out of the ground. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Fine, yeah.
Wonder if you'd mind leaving that alone until we ask you a few questions.
So you mean before I have another drink?
Yes, sir, if you would.
Well, of course. Glad to oblige. I'll wait, I mean. You don't have to worry about me, though, not old Earl Brody. I'll hold my liquor. You just bet. Old Earl's a regular tanker. Don't ever show on old Earl.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you just tell us about finding the body.
Well, I was out in the front watering the lawn. Always do it at the same time, you see. The hot sun burns it up. You don't water, you know. You've got to do that.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's what I was doing, watering the lawn.
Yes, sir. Do you want to go on?
You sure you fellas don't want a little snort, huh? Good work.
No, thanks.
Huh?
No, thanks.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden I hear Nero making an awful fuss.
Who's that?
That's a silly name, isn't it?
Who is it?
Little bitty old Pete. She called it Nero. Always seemed to me that if you're going to call a dog Nero, it should be a big dog. Yes, Nero's the dog.
Well, what happened then?
Well, sir, first off, I didn't pay much attention to it. Just kept right on watering the lawn. And old Nero kept it up. Kept right on yelling and howling. Finally, I figured there must be something wrong. Yes, sir, there must be with all that going on. So I turned off the water and wandered over. You know, check up.
Yes, sir. Mr. Brody, about what time was this?
I thought it was funny, Ethel not coming out and making Nero shut up. Oh, it was about 6 o'clock. Yeah, about 6 o'clock.
Did you see anyone around the house when you went over?
Not a soul, no, sir. There's nobody. So I went around back to the patio, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there wasn't anybody there either. And I knocked at the door. Now, all this time, little old Nero is still raising old Ned. Ain't stopped to breathe hardly.
Yes, sir.
Well, sir, when I knocked on the door, things swung right open. Wasn't locked, you know, so I called Ethel. I called a couple of times. I didn't get no answer. I couldn't see nothing, so door opens on a kind of little service porch. I didn't see a thing.
Yes, sir.
Then I went in. Walked right into the kitchen. There she was, lying on the floor. Stuff scattered all over, and little Nero sitting right beside her, just going crazy.
You called the police right away, didn't you?
Well, I run out of the house, all over to my place, and called the operator. I dialed 0 and told him to send a policeman right away. Yeah, right away I called him.
Had you seen Miss Lawrence at all today?
Yeah, I saw her this noontime. She was out to get the mail, and we said, hello. You know, just as cheerful like that.
Well, what time did you say hello?
Oh, I picked up the mail and went right back into the house, just like she didn't have no idea what was going to happen. Oh, about 1:30, mail comes in.
Mm-hmm. Did you see anyone around her house this afternoon?
Nobody, no. Oh, well, of course, now, I was out in the back most of the afternoon, you see, out there working in the flowers, so I can't right out say that there wasn't anybody over there.
I see. Do you know where we can get in touch with Mr. Lawrence?
He works in the garage down on Pico, I think. I got the name of the place around someplace. I used to take my car down to him before him and Mrs. Lawrence got a divorce.
How long have they been divorced?
About 3 years, I guess. Well, I'm not really sure about that.
How they get along, do you know? Any trouble between them?
I guess there's some who'd say that he was right. I made it a practice not to get involved in those things. Religion, politics, and marriage troubles. I don't get meddled up in them. Oh, they fought all the time. Yeah.
Has Mr. Lawrence been at his wife's house lately?
Well, not that I've seen. I guess they, see each other, but I understand from what Ethel said. It was at the lawyer's. She used to try to tell me about it, but I just wouldn't listen. I don't believe in it. Religion, politics, marriage stuff, and all those things, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
Alimony. They was always fighting about alimony, always.
Do you know what the disagreements were about besides alimony?
I'll tell you, mister. You better talk to Mr. Lawrence about that. He's the one to set you right on it. I go telling you, and I'm liable to say something wrong, you see, and that wouldn't be right, would it? You better talk to him. You talk to him.
All right, sir, if you'll just give us the address, please.
Sure. I'll take a look at my checkbook, see if I can find it. You talk to him. He don't give you all the scoop, then maybe I can help you out a little.
All right, Mr. Brudig, thank you.
Got any more questions you got to ask me right now?
Well, if you don't feel well, sir, we can talk to you later.
Well, it ain't that I don't feel good, just that I like another little snort, kind of pick me up a little, body and soul together, an awful thing. Just awful.
Well, there may be some more things we'll want to check with you later tonight.
A little old snort ain't going to do no harm. One thing, everybody says is old Earl can hold his liquor. Everybody says that. You can ask them, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly a day goes by somebody don't say that.
Well, if you'll get Mr. Lawrence's address for us, please.
Right away, sir. Wonder how you going to take all this. All them years of battling, screaming at each other. Now they're over. You ain't going to have no more trouble because of her.
No, that's not quite right, sir.
Huh?
He's liable to have a lot more. Earl Brudig looked through his desk and he found a canceled check bearing the address of the garage where the victim's husband was employed. While he was looking for the check stub, Frank and I interrogated him further on the relations between Ethel Lawrence and her husband. He refused to tell us any more than he had, explaining that if the answers we got from the husband weren't adequate, we could come back and see him. 6:48 p.m. We returned to the victim's house and we talked with Lieutenant Lee Jones. He told us that the crew from the crime lab had been unable to find the murder weapon, but that they had been able to lift several good fingerprints from the kitchen. He went on to say that these had been checked with those of the victim and they were not the same. Little other physical evidence was found in the house. However, an impression of a shoe had been found in the soft earth at the side of the house, and a plaster cast had been made of it. We asked Lieutenant Jones to take the fingerprints of the neighbor who had found the body and check them with the impressions left in the victim's house. 9:46 p.m. The coroner arrived and removed the body and attached the paper seal to the front door. Frank and I went back to the office and checked the name of the victim and her husband through the record bureau. We found that Bernard Lawrence had been arrested 4 years previously on a wife-beating charge, but that he'd been released when his wife refused to prosecute. We checked the name Earl Brudig. He had no record. 10:54 p.m. We drove over to the garage where the victim's husband was employed. The place was closed, but there was a card on the door giving an emergency address. Frank and I drove out to the house, a low, rambling ranch-style building. The garage owner, Arnold Norton, met us at the door.
Yeah?
Mr. Norton?
That's right. What can I do for you?
Police officers. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, I guess it's okay. I don't know what it's about, but I guess it's okay. What do you want?
Might be better if we talked inside.
You mind if I see your identification?
No, sir. Here's my ID card. This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
Uh-huh. Yeah, come in.
Thank you.
Just a minute, I'll turn off the TV.
We don't like to bother you, Mr. Norton. Shouldn't take us too long.
Doesn't matter, it's just a fight movie. I've seen it before. I get a kick out of seeing him again.
Mm-hmm.
What is it you want to know?
You have an employee named Bernard Lawrence working for you?
Yeah, Barney's been with me for about 7 years. Why?
You have a home address for him?
I suppose so. But can you tell me what this is all about?
Just a routine investigation. We'd like to talk to him.
I'll write out the address for you.
All right. You ever hear about Lawrence and his wife having any quarrels or disagreements?
I'm not quite sure how I should answer that.
What do you mean?
I don't know why you're asking the question. It's a little rough to ask me to comment on the way Barney gets along with his wife. I don't want to lay anything on him.
You've known him for quite a while, have you?
Yeah, I told you he's been with me for 7 years. Best carburetor man I've got.
You must have heard him discussing his home life at one time or another, haven't you?
I went through the same thing before, you know. I got myself right in the middle before. I don't want it to happen again.
I don't understand.
When they got the divorce, all the time lawyers coming around asking questions, trying to get me to take sides. I'm not going to do it. If Barney's trying to bring the thing up again, he should be the one to tell me, not have you fellas come around and do it. I'm not going to get in the middle again. I've known both of them for a long time. I think a lot of them. Ethel and Barney and me have been pretty close in the years. But I've had it. All the questions about how much Barney makes, what were his working hours, who did he see, did he run around with any girls? No. I'm not going to answer any more questions.
Well, this isn't a civil matter, Mr. Norton.
This has nothing to do with the divorce?
No, sir.
I'm not going to be called as a witness?
We can't say to that, sir.
Uh-huh. The way you fellas are going about this routine thing makes me think that it's a lot more important than just a traffic ticket or anything like that.
Well, it is.
Did you see Lawrence today?
You mean at the garage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he came to work at 8, just like he always does.
He was there all day?
8 to 5, that's what he works.
Does he have occasion to leave the garage at all during the day?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, does he have to leave to go pick up parts, anything like that?
Yeah, once in a while he does. We got a fellow who does that kind of thing, but when he's out on a call and Barney needs something fast, he maybe runs down the street and gets it.
Mm-hmm. Did he leave the garage this afternoon?
Yeah, he had to go down and pick up some rebuilds.
You know what time he left?
It'd be hard to pin it down to an exact time. I don't much keep tabs on Barney. He comes and goes as he pleases.
It's pretty important that we get an idea of when he was gone.
Well, I can check it with the other boys in the shop. I should be able to find out when he left. I know he got back about 4:30, though.
You're pretty sure about the time?
Yeah, he came back and did a job on a rush one that we had, and then he took off at 5.
How was he acting when he came back?
What do you mean?
Did he seem upset about anything?
No, not particularly. He seemed pretty happy, though. Kept talking about what a beautiful day it was and how good he felt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it come right down to it, Barney was happier than he's been in some time. Just seemed like all his troubles were gone.
Well, we know how you feel about this, Mr. Norton, but it's pretty important. Did you ever hear Mr. Lawrence threaten his wife?
I'm going to have to take your word for it as being pretty important, Mr. Friday. I've got no way of knowing, but if you guys get me in the middle of anything, I'm going to be pretty sore about it.
Don't worry about that.
Well, and to answer your question, Barney and Ethel didn't get along very well. I guess you knew that. Divorce and all, Ethel accusing Barney of running around, they had some pretty big arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Barney was pretty mad at the judge when he got the alimony. He had to pay Ethel $150 a month. Made him pretty sore. But the judge said to pay it or go to jail. Ethel would just as soon see him in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Barney used to talk to me about it. We'd stop down the street and have a beer when we closed up the shop. Barney would say there was only 2 ways he could get out of the alimony payments.
Well?
One was if Ethel got married again, and Barney always said she was so mean that no sane man would have her.
What about the other way?
That was for her to die.
Mm.
I guess that was about the only threat he ever made so I could hear it.
What's that?
That he wouldn't mind helping her out.
11:47 p.m. We drove over to the address we'd gotten for Bernard Lawrence. It was a modern apartment building in the Wilshire district. We rang the bell to his apartment, but we got no answer. Frank and I talked to the manager of the building, and he let us into the suspect's apartment. In a preliminary search of the place, we found nothing to tie the man in with his wife's death. However, from the clothes and the other personal effects in the place, we were reasonably sure that he'd returned to the apartment. The manager told us that Lawrence had come home after work, changed his clothes, and left, saying that he'd return later. We put in a call to the office, and we told them where we were, and we made arrangements to be relieved the next morning in the event the suspect hadn't returned. Frank and I settled down in our car, which was parked across the street from the apartment, to wait for Lawrence. At 1:30, Frank went down to the corner and called Fay to tell her he'd be a little late. He brought back a carton of hot coffee and some sandwiches. The stakeout continued. 2:30, still no sign of the suspect. 3:30, 4. At 5:30 a.m., the landlord came to the porch of the apartment house and yelled at us, indicating he wanted to tell us something. Frank went over to see him while I waited in the car. A couple of minutes later, Frank came running back.
Joe?
Yeah?
Manager just got a call from Lawrence.
What about?
Lawrence wanted to have his stuff packed and sent down to the depot.
Yeah?
Said he's leaving town.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet Peter Lynn Hayes and Mary Healy, America's favorite husband and wife comedy team. They are typical of smokers everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me. Mary says,
I've smoked regular-sized Chesterfields for about 7 years. Guess that ought to prove how I feel about Chesterfield's taste and mildness.
Peter says, Chesterfields for me, too.
Far as I'm concerned, King is the only size, and like Mary says, Chesterfield is the only cigarette.
Either way you like them, I'll bet you'll find Chesterfield is best for you.
Yes, smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette. Regular and king-size Chesterfield. The best cigarette ever made, and best for you.
5:42 a.m. We called the business office and had arrangements made to check the reservation lists on trains going east. We also set up stakeouts on the depots and on the airline terminals in the event the suspect changed his mind about taking the train. 2 officers came out and relieved us at the apartment. The manager of the apartment was instructed to notify the officers on stakeout in the event he heard from Lawrence. 6:12 a.m. Frank and I drove back downtown. We went to the business office and got out a local and an APB on the suspect. We checked out of the office to go home and change our clothes, and at 8:46 a.m., we met back in the squad room.
Well, you made it fast, huh, Joe?
Yeah, carton of coffee there if you want some.
No, thanks. I got something to eat on the way in.
No?
Any word?
No, not yet. Lawrence still hasn't showed up at the apartment. There's nothing from the depot steakhouse.
Oh, man, I'd sure like to get some sleep.
Well, I'm with you there.
You know, face sure sore.
What about last night?
Yeah, had it all planned that we were going to a movie tonight. Always plans it on my day off.
Well.
You know, we have dinner and go down to the neighborhood. Kind of nice. She looks forward to it.
What's that got to do with last night?
Well, this is my day off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it says in the schedule.
And I'm working, right?
Yeah.
Well, I worked all last night, too. Huh?
Yeah.
Going to be no movie tonight.
I don't follow you.
Well, I'm going to sleep. As soon as I get home, I'm going to climb right into the shower, dry off, into bed. Going to sleep the clock around. That's why.
Mm-hmm. We got to talk to Skipper this morning.
Is he in yet?
Yeah, he's down at Chief Brown's office.
Mm-hmm. You fill him in?
Yeah, a little bit. He goes along with us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's check R&I. I want to look at that arrest report on Lawrence, see if any of his friends are listed. We might be able to get a lead on him. Better find out if he made that call he was supposed to have made when he was gone from work, huh?
Yeah. The way it looks, he's still in town.
Well, that doesn't do us a lot of good unless we know where.
Well, we can go out and talk to the fellow that found the body. He might be able to come up with something.
Better put a stake out on the garage where Lawrence worked, too. He might show up there.
Right. I'll get Norton on the phone. Tell him to let us know if he hears anything.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing looks pretty clean. All we got to do is put Lawrence at his wife's house this afternoon. We got it made.
There's only one trouble.
Yeah?
We got to find him before we can put him there. After putting in the call to the garage where the suspect was employed and arranging for a stakeout on the place, Frank and I checked the arrest record that had been made out 4 years previously and obtained a list of his friends and relatives. We contacted each one of them, but they could give us no information on Lawrence. That morning, we met with Captain Lorman, and we went over the evidence with him. The fingerprints found at the scene of the murder had been eliminated when they were compared with those of the neighbor, Earl Brudig. Other physical evidence netted us nothing. The murder weapon still had not been found. The only piece of evidence that we had to attempt to identify the killer was the plaster cast of the footprint found by the side of the house. However, Lee Jones said that it would be of little use other than to identify the size of the shoe. It was a size 10 with a leather sole and a leather heel. There were no distinguishing marks on the impression. 2 days went by, and we still hadn't found Lawrence. We talked to the men he worked with, but none of them could supply us with any information as to his possible whereabouts. We checked the bars he was known to frequent without results. Apparently, the suspect had disappeared without a trace. On Saturday, June 14th, 3 days after the murder, Frank and I got back to the office after lunch.
You want to check the book?
Yeah.
Where can I find Joe Friday?
I'm him.
I'm Barney Lawrence.
Well, we've been looking for you.
I want you to get off my back. Leave me alone.
You mind telling us where you've been for the past 3 days?
It's none of your business. The only reason I'm here now is I want to tell you to stop going around asking a lot of questions, causing me embarrassment.
What do you mean by that?
You know what I mean. I don't mind telling you I'm pretty sore about the things you said behind my back. You probably didn't think I'd find out about them. But I did, and I'm telling you to stop.
You ought to take it easy, Lawrence.
You keep your nose out of this, cop. I'm talking to him. I got a few things for you, too, before I leave.
Yeah? I don't think you're going to leave.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just what it sounded like. You're under arrest.
For what?
Suspicion of murder.
You figured I killed Ethel?
You look good for it.
Then you better get a pair of glasses, cop. I'm walking out of here, and if you're smart, you won't try to stop me.
I wouldn't try it, Lawrence. Lawrence? Now, hold it. If you haven't done anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about. Now, come on back here.
You know something?
What's that?
I've always wanted to hit a cop.
Come on, Lawrence. On your feet.
Keep your hands off me, cop. Just keep your hands off me.
All right, now sit down. Right here. Sit down. Go ahead. We're investigating a murder. Someone beat your wife to death. We're trying to find who did it.
Well, it wasn't me.
You got a funny way of showing it. The suspect was booked in at the main jail on suspicion of murder. Lawrence put in a call to his lawyer, and arrangements were made to have him released on bond. Frank and I attempted to interrogate him before he was booked, but he refused to answer any questions we put to him. The following morning, we met with he and his lawyer. Again, we ran into the same stubborn silence. At 11:30 a.m., we met with Captain Lorman and Chief of Detectives Thad Brown. We laid out the evidence we had. From all appearances, we had the guilty man in custody, but it might be difficult to prove in a court of law. The one thing we'd been unable to establish was Lawrence's presence in the house at the time of the murder. It was decided that without being able to prove this, we would have little chance of getting a complaint from the district attorney's office. Frank and I started re-questioning the neighbors. None of them could tell us any more than they already had. We re-questioned the man who'd found the body, Earl Brudig. He came up with the additional information that there had been a crew of carpenters working on a house the day of the killing. The building was located next door to him, directly across the street from the place where the murder had been committed. We questioned the carpenters. None of them could tell us anything. However, there was one man who had been working on the construction that we were unable to reach. It took us several days before we were able to find him. On Wednesday, June 18th, we got to his house at 7:30 a.m., just before he left for work. He asked us to talk to him in the kitchen of his home.
I'm just having breakfast. Fix you guys something to eat?
No, thanks, Mr. Hewitt. We don't want to take up much of your time here.
Oh, don't worry about that. What's this about anyway?
We understand that you were working on a job on Green Oak Drive on the 10th of June. Is that right?
Let me think. Yeah, 9700 block. Yeah, I was there. Why?
You worked there all day, did you?
That's right. Left the place around 5:30. Say, this about that woman that was murdered?
Yes, sir.
You got the fellow that did it?
Well, we think we know where he is.
You guys like a cup of coffee?
Yeah, fine. We'll join you.
Yeah, thanks.
Either of you use sugar?
No, thanks.
No, thanks, sir.
Don't see how you can drink coffee without it. Always use 2 spoons myself. That's good. Well, say, if you know who did the killing, how come he isn't in jail?
We need a little more evidence before we can take him to court.
That's why you're talking to me, huh?
That's right. A couple things you might be able to straighten us out on.
Why me?
Well, we've talked to the other men in the crew. Seems like you're the only one left.
Comes right back to me, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
What's the matter, Hewitt?
Gotta sit down.
What's wrong, Hewitt? What's the matter? You sick?
Poison in the sugar. I've been expecting it.
Frank, get an ambulance, quick.
Yeah.
What kind of poison, Hewitt? What kind?
There's nothing you can do now. I know this is wrong, taking poison. I killed the old lady. I killed her.
Ambulance on the way, Joe.
No hurry. He's dead.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 23rd, an inquest was held in offices of the coroner in and for the county of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that inquest.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you. Earlier, George Fenneman told you exactly why the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you. Now, the rest is up to you. Get a carton or two for yourself. Smoke them, and you'll say, as we do, it's Chesterfield's for me.
At the inquest, it was ruled that the suspect, Merle Patrick Hewitt, died of self-administered poison, and his death was listed as a suicide. The victim's husband, Bernard Jerome Lawrence, was released from custody.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank the editors of Time magazine for their cover story of Jack Webb and Dragnet. That's Time magazine, on your newsstands this Thursday.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Vic Rodman, Jack Crucian. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters, the one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste, much more flavor, much less nicotine, the right length for effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product, alpha cellulose, the purest material for filtering cigarette smoke. Yes, this is it. As Ann Sheridan puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light, and mild smoke.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to hit-and-run felony detail. A young woman has been run down and seriously injured. The driver of the car has fled from the scene. Your job, find him. Today, friends, you hear these three words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. Best for you, because Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine. The taste you want, the mildness you want. Chesterfield is best for you because it's tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield is best for you because it has an established good record with smokers, proven by test after test. Yes, friends, the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made for the taste you want, the mildness you want. Join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield. Always say, Chesterfield's for me.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, April 7th. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of traffic bureau, hit-and-run felony detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Calfee. My name's Friday. We were on our way out from the office, and it was 8:40 a.m. when we got to 1784 Byram Street. Front door.
Better try it again, huh?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Sounds like somebody coming.
Yeah? Something you want?
Miss Hunter?
That's right. What do you want?
Police officers, we'd like to talk to you.
Oh, about the thing last night, huh?
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Well, come on in. I can't stand around for long. I'm going to be late for work as it is. Come on.
Thank you. This is my partner, Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
How do you do?
Hi. Sit down there. I got to get ready to leave. There's some coffee there in the carafe if you want some.
No, thank you.
No, ma'am, thank you.
Would you mind pouring me a cup? You'll find everything right there on the table. 2 sugars.
All right.
What do you want to know about last night? I told the officers who were there all I know.
Yes, ma'am, we know. We read their report. We'd like to go over it with you if it's all right.
Seems like a waste of time to me. Spend a little more of it trying to catch the kid that hit the girl. It'd be better all the way around.
Yes, ma'am. There's your coffee.
Oh, thank you. Ooh, too warm. Either one of you got a cigarette?
Yes, ma'am. Here you are.
Here's the light.
Thanks. What do you want to go over?
Well, according to what you said to the officers last night, you saw the accident. Is that right?
I saw it, yeah. Well, I don't think it was an accident. If you ask me, I think the kid deliberately hit the girl, deliberately.
Now, why do you say that?
Well, just the way it looked, that's all. Kind of feeling. Way came barreling around the corner. He must have seen her. She was right under the light, didn't even make an attempt to stop, none at all.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her, the girl, step off the curb. Right under the light. He had to see her, had to. Anyway, she stepped off the curb and started to cross the street. Harry and me saw her. She started to cross, and then all of a sudden, this kid in the hot rod was coming right at her. Was there anything she could do?
Yes, ma'am.
She kind of looked up at the car and then, well, like she was going to run. But she didn't have time. The car hit her and knocked her down.
Did you get a good look at the car?
You mean the one that hit her?
Yes, ma'am.
You bet I did. Passed right under the light. Got a real good look at it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if you'd describe it for us.
I told the cops all about it last night. Seems like that'd be enough. Why do I have to go through it again?
Well, it might be something you didn't think of last night, Miss Hunter, something you might have forgotten.
It isn't likely, but if you gotta have it, I guess that's the way it's gotta be. Hope we can get it over with fast enough. I gotta get down to the corner so I won't miss my bus.
Well, if it'd help, we can drive you to work. You can give us the information on the way.
Well, that'll be fine. Wait a minute, I'll get my coat.
Uh-huh.
How'd it look when you came in?
Ma'am?
Did it look like it was gonna rain?
No, it's pretty cold, though.
Paper said it might rain today. Well, better take an umbrella.
What kind of a car was it, Miss Hunter?
A hot rod. You know the kind. Real low. 2 exhaust pipes kind of beat up.
Well, what kind of a car was it, the brand name?
I guess it was a Ford. Looked like one.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to tell. It was kind of banged up, you know. I don't know why the police allow cars like that on the streets anyway. It couldn't be very safe.
Can you tell us what year the car was?
Well, I'm not real good at that, but I'd say maybe a 1940. Might have been 1941.
It was a pre-war car, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure of that.
Would you like to get in, ma'am?
Okay, thanks.
Where can we drop you, ma'am?
Near First and Broadway will be fine, just on the corner there.
Okay.
Miss Hunter, was there anything about the car that'd make it easier to identify?
Not especially. Black Ford, all beat up. I'm sure I'd know it if I saw it again, any place.
Did you get a good look at the driver of the car?
No, not too good. All I could see was that he was a kid, you know, maybe 19, 20 years old.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see you get that kid. Is the girl all right? She looked pretty bad last night.
Well, she's still in a critical condition. Doctors aren't sure yet whether she'll be all right.
Sure hope she is. Have you talked to her?
No, we haven't. Not yet.
It's a terrible thing. Kids like that running around in hot rods, barreling around the city. A person's not safe on the streets anymore.
Well, just because a car's got twin tailpipes, Miss Hunter, doesn't have to be a hot rod.
Well, this one was. Even had the little sort of license plate hanging down from the back bumper.
You mean a state license plate?
No, one of those with a club name on it. You know the kind.
There's not a notation of that on the report that we remember.
I guess I forgot all the excitement and all. Must have forgot.
Well, did you see the name on that plate?
Yeah. Not real good, but I saw it.
Think you can remember it?
Not all of it. The last part was wheels. Something wheels. 2 words.
You're pretty sure of that, are you?
Yeah, wheels. That's the word I saw. Didn't remember it last night. Guess it didn't seem important then. Must be a lot of cars that have those plates on them all over town.
Yes, we know.
Don't seem like it's going to help much. A lot of cars with those plates on them. Lots of them.
Yes, ma'am.
Even if you do find the kid with one of them, how are you going to know if he's the right one?
Well, it's not going to be too hard.
Huh?
His car will tell us. According to the report, an automobile driven by one male occupant had struck a woman while she crossed the intersection of Olympic Boulevard and Connecticut Street the night before. When the ambulance arrived at the scene, the victim, who was identified as Mrs. Helen Chapman, was unconscious and was removed to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital for emergency treatment. Members of the crime lab had arrived at the scene and gathered what physical evidence they could find. All citizens in the vicinity were interrogated and their statements were taken. Photographs of the coroner were made and held for evidence. Because of the hit-and-run aspect of the case, Frank and I had been assigned to investigate it. At 1:14 p.m., we drove over to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital to talk to the attending physician, Dr. Sebastian. He said the patient's condition was so critical that she couldn't be moved to her own hospital. He told us that the victim hadn't recovered consciousness to the point where she could be questioned. He went on to tell us that she'd been administered serum albumin to counteract shock. He listed her injuries for us. Compound fractures of the femur, rib fractures, and associated internal injuries, including a punctured lung and brain concussion. It was not expected that she'd live. Frank and I left the doctor and walked down the hall. In the waiting room, we met a tall, thin man who looked as if he hadn't slept in several days. On the floor in front of him was a small pile of half-smoked cigarettes. He identified himself as the victim's husband, Carl Chapman.
I don't know. I came home from work. They told me about it. I didn't even know.
Didn't they try to call you at work?
No, I guess they called the house. There wasn't anybody home. I just walked up to the door, and there was a note telling me to call her. Didn't even know about Helen.
I see. You like a cigarette, Chapman?
Thanks. You talked to the doctor?
Yes, sir, we just did.
Is there anything new? She can be all right?
Well, I don't know yet. You can ask the doctor yourself.
Why don't anybody tell me anything? All the time I ask how my wife is, they tell me to ask the doctor. Why won't they tell me?
I don't know, sir.
Can't even find out if she needs anything. He won't let me see her. Anybody will tell me what's really happening in there. It's been over 10 hours. Nobody will tell me what's going on.
Well, best thing, try to sit down and take it easy, Mr. Chapman.
Oh, that's great to say. Just sit down. Easy to say. It's not your wife who's in there. It isn't someone you love. Why are you here, anyway? Why aren't you out trying to get the rotten little punk that did it? Why don't you look for him?
We'll get to him, sir.
When? After Helen's dead? Is that going to be when you start looking?
We're looking for him now. We came over in the hopes that we could talk to your wife. We thought she might be able to give us some information.
What in God's name do you want from her? The name and address of the kid who ran it down? Does she have to get out of bed and go find him for you? It's your job, yours. All this talk about the police department being so good, but what are you doing? You're standing around here with your toe in the dirt waiting for my wife to come to enough to point the kid out.
All right, sir. Now, take it easy.
Take it easy, nothing. You listen to me, both of you. You listen. If she dies, if that kid killed her, I'll find him. I don't know how, but I will. I'm going to do the same thing to him with my hands that he did with his car. I'll find him, I swear I'll find him, and I'm going to kill him. With my hands, I'm going to kill him.
Mr. Chapman?
Yeah.
May I see you for a moment?
Yeah.
Would you excuse us for a minute, Sergeant?
Sure, Doctor. We'll wait out in the hall. It's a rough one, isn't it?
Yeah. Wonder what's going on in there.
I don't know. Better call the skipper. Tell him about that plate on the car. Get a broadcast out on it. Check the phone book for the address of the National Hot Rod Association. Better talk with them, huh? They might have something for us on the club.
Right.
You better start, Cop. You better find him fast because I'm looking too.
You ought to go home and get some sleep, Mr. Chapman. You're all worn out.
I'm not going to get any sleep until I catch that kid. Until I catch that kid.
How is the girl?
She's dead. Both of them are.
Both of them?
Yeah. She's going to have a baby in a couple of months.
3:15 p.m. Frank and I drove out to the offices of the National Hot Rod Association on Hollywood Boulevard. We met with Bud Coons and Wally Parks. They checked their records for clubs with the last name Wheels. There were 3 in their files. 2 were in the eastern part of the United States, and 1 was listed as having headquarters in Alhambra, California. We obtained the name and address of the president of the club, and we drove out to see him. We found him in the garage behind the house working on a 1941 Ford. We introduced ourselves, and he asked us to sit down.
What do you want to see me about?
We understand that you're the president of the Square Wheel, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Why?
How many members do you have in the club?
18. 18 actives. There's a couple of guys in the service. What's this all about, anyway? How come the questions?
All your members have the metal plates with the club name on their car?
Yeah. Get them when they pay the initiation fee. Why?
Anybody else have them?
Not legally.
What do you mean?
Well, a couple of them out. Been stolen from members.
Any of the fellows in the club drive a black pre-war Ford?
Yeah, I guess we got about 5 of them. I got one myself, as a matter of fact. Listen, why can't you tell me what this is all about? Figure if I knew what you wanted, I could help you out.
Well, a woman was run down by a hot rod last night. One of the witnesses saw a plate on the car that might have been from your club.
No kidding.
That's the way we get it.
What did it look like?
Well, they say it had twin pipes, pretty well beat up, white sidewall tires.
It's not one of ours, then.
You sound pretty sure. What about the plate?
Well, I told you, we've had a couple of them stolen. Must have been one of them.
Well, how come you're so sure it wasn't one of your members?
Oh, I know the cars in the club. There isn't a yo-yo in the bunch.
What's a yo-yo?
Well, yeah, you know, a shot rod, junk heap.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. It seems like every time there's any trouble with a car over 5 years old, it's a hot rod. Sure not fair.
That's so.
Yeah. Come here, I'll show you. Now, take a look at that. I've been working on it for 3 years. Got over $1,200 in it. Take a look at it.
It's a lot of motor.
Yeah, it's a good car, but what's it prove?
The car that ran that woman down wasn't a hot rod.
Well, how do you figure that?
You said it was a wreck, didn't you?
That's right.
We haven't got a wreck that's allowed on the streets in this club. I don't know a legal club that has a yo-yo in it. We got a safety check every month. Any car that isn't safe has to be fixed or the guy's out. A lot of clubs operate that way.
Yeah, we know.
Our kids build rods for 2 reasons. Because they want the cars to run better, be more efficient, or else they want something a little different than you can buy in a showroom.
Yeah, well, all this sounds good, but a woman was killed last night by a kid driving a hopped-up car of some kind.
Maybe it had twin pipes, a loud muffler, but I'll give you odds from here to Bonneville that it wasn't a hot rod. I know how you guys feel. We're always getting it. Every kid behind the wheel in a second-hand car is a potential killer. The way the papers picture us, we just roam around looking for somebody to run over. That's not true. You check the records. I think you'll find that the ratio between tickets given out to members of hot rod clubs, members of the NHRA, and any other group of drivers will make the hot rodders look pretty good. There hasn't been a ticket in our club in the last year and a half. The one before that was for overtime parking. Oh, I'm sorry, fellas. That car last night wasn't one of our guys, and you can bet he wasn't a hot rodder either.
You got any way of knowing who could have gotten the plaque?
Well, not right off, but we'll find him.
How?
There's only so many streets in Los Angeles. We'll find him. Guys like that make things rough on the clean drivers in this town. We'll find him for you.
Well, we'll appreciate any help you can give us on this, but it's police business. If you find him, give us a call right away.
Don't worry, we will. How do I get in touch with you?
I'll leave you one of our cards. Anytime. You call us.
All right. I'll get on the phone and get the fellows rounded up.
If you turn anything, call us right away. Don't try to take care of it yourselves.
Only one thing we're interested in.
You know what's that?
Proving to you it wasn't one of us. That's what's important. Showing you we're on your side.
Well, that shouldn't be too hard.
Huh?
There's a lot of room. We got the names and addresses of the members of the Square Wheel Club, and we talked to them. We checked their cars, and each of them volunteered to assist us in attempting to locate the hit-and-run vehicle. 6:40 p.m., Frank and I got back to the office. During the afternoon, the broadcast on the car had gone over the state wire, and every police officer in the state of California was looking for the hit-and-run car. When we checked with communications, there had been no replies to our broadcast. 7:15 p.m., we put in a call to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital, and we talked again to Dr. Sebastian. He told us that the victim's husband, Carl Chapman, had been placed under the care of his family doctor and had been given sedatives to make him sleep. While I checked with Lieutenant Wolfram on the developments, Frank went over to the crime lab and talked with Lieutenant Lee Jones. 8:47 p.m. We met back in the squad room.
Any word yet?
No. Got a call from Al Gibbs.
Hot Rod Club?
Yeah. He says all the clubs in the area are looking for the car. They divided the city up in sections. Members are checking all the streets.
No luck, though, huh?
No, nothing. Well, they turned a couple of cars, but they don't check out. How'd you do?
Pretty good. Got the report here.
Uh-huh. Had a couple sandwiches sent in. Got your Swiss on rye.
Good.
In the bag there.
Where's coffee?
Right there, carton.
Oh. The lab sure did a good job on this stuff. Here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the scene. Victim was found 10 feet 4 inches from the northeast corner, 4 feet 8 inches from the north pedestrian crosswalk.
And put it about here, wouldn't it?
Yeah. They found particles of broken glass. Checked on them at the lighthouse. Lenses from 1944. Here's a picture of them.
Yeah.
In the gutter of the southwest corner, they found this.
There's a bumper guard.
Yeah. I looked at it. It's new.
Any brand name?
Yeah, but it's not going to help much. Distributed all over the country.
Well, how about skid marks? Any sign of them?
No, not that they could find. Either the kid didn't have time to use them or else he didn't want to. They came up with this, though.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, some marks from a tire. Lee says he thinks they were made when the kid dug out to get away, spun the back wheels.
Mm-hmm. Sure indicate that he didn't mean to stop at any time, huh?
Well, that's the way Lee's got it figured.
Well, it isn't much to go on, is it?
Well, it'd come easier.
Yeah. Well, let's go out and check the neighborhood again. We might still be able to turn up a decent description. We start checking the garages in the morning. Try to turn a car with a broken headlight and a missing bumper guard.
Okay. Better call communications, get out a supplemental on the tires. Huh?
Yeah, I'll take care of it. I got it. Hit and run felony Friday. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Anybody there? No, keep it under surveillance. We'll be right out. Yeah, don't burn it. Right, bye.
What do you got?
Well, it's beginning to go our way, maybe.
Huh?
They found the car.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Chesterfield's for me. You hear it everywhere. Tonight, we hear from America's #1 band leader, Ray Anthony, who, with his attractive wife, Dee, plays college dates from coast to coast.
In cigarettes, the young crowd really goes for Chesterfields. I've noticed that wherever we've played. And I guess it's one of the reasons Chesterfield is America's most popular two-way cigarette. Of course, Dee and I are Chesterfield smokers, too. We know they're best for us.
Chesterfield's for me. You hear it everywhere. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want, the mildness you want, join the thousands now changing to Chesterfield.
During a routine patrol of the streets in East Los Angeles, a radio unit had come across a car parked at the curb on Vancouver Avenue. They'd stopped to investigate and found that it matched the description that we'd sent out. On the phone, I'd instructed the officer not to search the car, but merely to keep it under surveillance and check and hold anyone who approached it. Frank and I notified the crime lab of the find, and then we left the office and drove out to the location. We talked to the officers in the police car, and they told us that they hadn't seen anyone near the vehicle. We checked the registration and found that the registered owner was a Jack Moore. The white slip gave us an address in Hollywood. While the crime lab went over the car, we drove out to Moore's address to talk to him. He lived in a large house built in the mid-20s as a private residence. It had been converted into a boarding house. Frank covered the rear entrance. I rang the front doorbell.
Yeah? What do you want waking me up this time of night?
Police officers. You have a tenant here named Jack Moore?
What about it?
We'd like to talk to him.
Too late, Mac. He ain't here.
Where is he?
I don't know. He moved out this afternoon. He didn't say where he was going.
A thorough search was made of the suspect's room. The manager told us that Moore had come home that morning, packed his belongings, and left the house. We called the crime lab, and Lieutenant Lee Jones told us that they'd established that Moore's car was the one that had run down the Chapman girl. We talked to the other people in the rooming house. None of them could tell us where Moore might have gone. We put in a call to auto records, but the car was not listed as being stolen. Frank called his name into R&I, but we found that he had no felony record. From the occupants of the rooming house, we found that the suspect had no relatives in this state and no close friends that they could recall. Leighton Prince came out and went over the room, and in going over it, we found a wastebasket Moore had used to dispose of articles that he didn't want. In the basket, we found several match folders from a bar out on West 7th Street. We put in a call to the bar, but we found that it was closed. From the manager of the rooming house, we got a good description of the suspect, along with the information that he received no mail and that he was apparently unemployed. A stakeout was set up on the house, and at 3:36 a.m., Frank and I checked out of the office and went home for the night. The next day, Wednesday, April 8th, we contacted DMV and asked that they give us all information on the car. 9:15 a.m., we drove over to the bar on West 7th Street.
Not open yet. Don't open till 10.
Police officers like some information.
License is back there on the wall in plain sight. There's nothing going on here.
You have a customer in here named Jack Moore?
We just opened the doors. We got no say about who comes in. As long as they don't cause trouble, we don't either.
This guy's about 20 or 21, 5'8", 5'10", 165 pounds, blonde. Name's Moore, Jack Moore.
What's he done?
We want to talk to him.
About what?
Police business. Have you seen him?
Nothing that's going to get the bar in trouble?
Well, that's a simple question, mister. Have you seen him?
Maybe, yeah. You tell me what it's all about, and I might be able to help you out.
You're running out of time. Have you seen Jack Moore?
Yeah.
When?
Last night.
Here?
Yeah, he was in. Got liquored up. I tossed him out when we closed.
Where's he now?
You better ask him.
I'm going to tell you once more. If you know where he is, you're going to save yourself a lot of time by cooperating with us.
I run a clean place here. I don't want any trouble with the cops. My license is on the wall. I got no choice of the customers who come in here. I don't want to get mixed up in anything.
We're not calling it that way.
That's the way it is. This is a clean place.
That's not what the book says. You've been tabbed a couple of times for serving minors. You run B-girls. You haven't served straight liquor in here for a couple of years. Now, if we have to get the information from you downtown, that's the way it's going to be. Get your coat.
Oh, now, look, fellas, I was just trying to take care of myself.
You did. Get your coat.
Isn't there some way we can work this thing out? I don't want any trouble.
Where's Jack Moore?
I try to run a clean place. A couple of times I've been...
We've been over all that before. Now, where is he?
I got him up at my place.
You there now?
I guess so. He got pretty loaded last night. Told me he didn't have any place to pad down. I took him home.
What's the address?
1862 and a half Woodworth Court, room 14.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. And don't try to call him.
I got no phone in the room. If he's done anything, I had no part in it. Just trying to help a friend out, that's all. Just help a friend out.
Yeah, sure.
You tell him that. How he got me in trouble. All because I tried to help him out. You just tell him.
Yeah, we will.
And tell him not to come around here anymore. Tell him to keep out. Tell him that, will you, for me? Tell him not to come back?
Don't you worry about it. He won't be back. We called the office, and another team of detectives came out to the bar to keep the bartender under surveillance in the event that he might try to contact the suspect. It took 5.5 minutes to drive to the Woodward Street address. It was a large building located at the end of a blind street. Room 14 was on the third floor in the front of the building. Frank and I approached the room, and we listened. There was no sound from inside.
You want to try the door?
Yeah. It's unlocked.
Yeah.
There he is on the bed.
Yeah. Looks like the right guy.
Well, let's wake him up. Come on. Come on, boy. Wake up. Come on.
Let me alone, Charlie.
Come on, get up, boy. Get up.
Let me alone. I told you, Charlie, let me... Who are you guys? What are you doing
Police
here?
officers, you're under arrest.
Wait a minute.
All right, let me go. Now, come on, stand still.
All right. All right, I quit.
You want to shake him, Frank?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's clean.
Where you taking me? I ain't done nothing. You got no reason to push me around like this.
All right, let's go.
Where? Where you going to take me?
Downtown.
For what?
Manslaughter.
I didn't do it. I didn't. You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong one. I didn't do it.
All right, come on, let's move.
But you got the wrong one. I didn't do it. I didn't know what you wanted. That's why I run. I didn't know what you wanted.
Well, you do now, so let's go. The suspect was taken to the squad room where he was questioned. He refused to admit any part in the crime. He was confronted with the physical evidence and with the ownership of the hit-run vehicle. The witness to the crime came to the office and said that Jack Moore was the man that she'd seen at the wheel of the car when Helen Chapman had been run down. Throughout the interrogation, the suspect refused to say anything. At 1:47 p.m., the door of the squad room opened and Carl Chapman came in.
Where is he? I know he's here. I want to see him.
All right, take it easy, Chapman.
I heard you caught him. I want to see him. I want to tell him. Is that the kid? Are you the one? You the one who killed Helen? Well, answer me.
All right, take it easy, Chapman.
Is he the one?
The evidence points that way, yeah.
Please. I want you to do something for me.
What's that?
Go away. Out of here, please.
We can't do that, Chapman. He's in custody.
Please leave me alone with him.
Come on, Chapman. You better wait outside.
Now, just a minute. Listen to me, kid. When they put you in that cell, you get down on your knees and thank God that they found you before I did. You understand? You thank him, and every day you live, you thank him. You do that because I would have killed you.
Take it easy, Chapman.
My wife's dead because of him. You hear that? You killed her. They got laws to save people like you, but none for her. None for her and the baby. They didn't have any laws. None for them.
All right, Chapman. Come on, take it easy. Frank, come on, sir. Yeah.
Pretty upset, ain't he?
I want you to remember something, kid. In the years I've been in this department, I've seen some bad ones, real bad. Teenage kids that didn't know any better scraped up off the pavement and sent home to their parents. Drunks who were too loaded to know what went on. There's been a lot of them go through here, but you finished way ahead of the field, boy.
You talk good. I bet you're on a lecture team around here.
I'm getting fed up with you kids roaming the streets in death traps. Now, I don't care about you. You want to wrap yourself around a post, you go ahead. We'll try and stop you, but don't you take somebody else with you. Every year, the number gets bigger, more people killed. It isn't the honest drivers that do it. It's people like you who don't care for anybody else. Now, we've tried about everything in the books to make you understand. Doesn't look like any of them did any good, does it?
I'm a bad one, ain't I?
You killed a human being, boy. A woman who didn't even know you. She never saw you until it was too late. You threw a 1.5 ton of metal at a 120-pound woman, and then you ran away and left her in the gutter to die. You wrecked the family. You tore it right down the middle and rolled over it. You've ruined the lives of all the people around that woman. You gave a group of decent kids a bad time because you stole their name. Now, you get on your feet, young fella, and you keep that smart mouth of yours closed. Do you understand?
Can I ask you something?
What's that?
Hit and run. How much will I get?
I don't know, but it won't be enough.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On October 14th, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Thousands of smokers all across the country are now changing to Chesterfield. We'd like you to give them a try, too. I know you'll like them because the Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. For the taste you want and the mildness you want, smoke America's most popular two-way cigarette. Regular or king size, Chesterfield.
Jack Carlisle Moore was tried and found guilty of manslaughter, 1 count, and received sentence as prescribed by law. Manslaughter is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a period not to exceed 10 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Joyce McCluskey, Harry Bartell, Dick Perrin. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters. The only filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste. The right length for effective filtration. And just the right filter. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product,
Alpha Cellulose. You get much more flavor, much less nicotine. This is it. As Bennett Cerf puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, America's highest quality and best filter tip cigarettes.
Hear Rocky Fortune following John Cameron Swayze and the news on the NBC Radio Network.